Good evening, everyone. My name is Harry Coughlin. I'm the CEO of both the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation, as well as the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. Today is October 22nd. Time is now 5:30 p.m. Before we move into our formal board meetings, we are going to hold a number of committee meetings. One point of notation, please note that during these committee meetings, we will not be taking public comment or question. We will instead be reserving that for the full board meetings. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to our counsel, Mr. Thomas Glasscock, who is going to facilitate us through each of the committee meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Coughlin. What we would suggest doing tonight is having the agency committees meet and then moving to the LEAC committees. And we would start off with the Finance Committee. I wish to note that the time is now 5:31. And I would ask that Chair Lewis Warren call the LEAC Finance Committee into order. And that we have a roll call of its members.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair Warren, you're present?
Present, yes, sir.
And Member Flores, you're present?
I think Amy's on mute.
Excellent. And and Member Williams is on the way. I wish to note that we have 2 of the 3 members, and pursuant to the bylaws, we do have a quorum for the committee meeting. I'd like to note that minutes of the agency's Finance Committee meeting from February 27th were circulated. Are there any comments to the draft minutes? Hearing none, I would suggest and request that Chair Warren make a motion to approve the draft minutes.
Thank you, Tom. For our Finance Committee, I'd like to make a motion to improve our meeting minutes from the May 28th, 2020 Finance Committee meeting.
It's actually that's for LEAC. The agency met February 27th. So yep. So we'll be approving those as well. Can Member Flores, can I ask you to second the motion? Very good. And
I'm not hearing Amy.
I'm not either.
So I just reached out to Amy to let her know. I think she's having trouble with her audio when she unmutes. But through visual, she did confirm yes.
Yes, I saw her indicator confirmation. If I could ask for a vote of the committee.
Lewis Warren votes yes. Aye. Amy, if you do a thumbs up.
If you could do a thumbs up. Very good. So I'd like to note that the motion was carried. And at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Coughlin to our CFO, Ann Lamort, to present the preliminary budget.
So good evening. Before Ann gets started, just to make the board members aware, the committee meeting members aware, we have 2 budgets to present to you tonight, one for LEAC, one for the IDA. The reason that we have this committee meeting tonight and the reason that we have a hearing for the budget is because it is due to the authority's budget office by November 1st. So hence the timing on seeing it tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to our CFO, Ann Lamort, for an overview of the budgets for 2021.
Finance members, I would like to thank you for your time in reviewing our preliminary draft budget for 2021. If you need a copy of the preliminary budget, it may be found in the CFO folder. The file name is NCLEAC Draft Budget 2021. I'll be happy to take you through it. Quickly, we started with the summary budget. Behind the summary budget is a detailed budget, and then notes to the budget. We have a revenue schedule with the revenue assumptions used in calculating the revenues. And then we have marketing and business development expenses. We do a comparison of what we spent this year and what we're projecting for next year. And then we finish off with a 5-year Paris budget that will show a little bit of improvement over the next 5 years. Without going into too much detail, Does anyone have any questions?
The one thing I just want to highlight for the members is the most difficult thing to project or estimate, both with the corporation and the agency, is the closing fee income. As you know, each project is of a different size, nature, scope, and as such generates different levels of fees. For the purpose of the corporation, we are estimating 2 projects to close with an average fee of $75,000 each. So it sort of keeps in line with the activity levels we have seen in the past for the corporation. And then for the agency, when we get to it, we are estimating 10 to 12 closings of varying sizes.
Thank you, Harry. I guess, Ann, anything else you wanted to call out? I mean, it all looked consistent with the 2020 budget. Anything on benefits? We talked about revenue, capital expenditures. Anything else you would like to highlight for us?
The budget is actually showing a surplus, and the last 2020 and 2019 were showing deficits. I don't think anything else really. We're just showing a small surplus for this year or next year coming up.
Warren, was your question with regards to LEAC or the IDA, just to clarify?
I was looking at the IDA, and Ann was kind enough to send us the budgets in advance. So I was looking at the IDA and IDA, and just so I am looking at the right thing, had a slight deficit for 2021, right?
I just want to clarify, if I may, with Tom Glasscock, are we in the LEAC Finance Committee or are we in both?
We were in the agency finance.
Okay, fine. I apologize.
We're in the agency?
Yes.
Oh, I'm in the LEAC budget, and I apologize.
No worries.
We usually start with LEAC. Okay, moving to the IDA budget. So sorry, Louis. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Not at all. I know historically we have started with LEAC, and I think tonight we switched the order on you, Ann.
So, that is
All right.
probably my fault. My apologies.
Okay, so yes, so the same format as LEAC. So we did start, and we do have a deficit of 320,000. Yes, you're correct. For the IDA, let me get we do, I know you've heard it before, but we do have a very significant, robust pipeline. And for next year, we anticipate the 10 to 12 closings, as Harry said, between about averaging 100,000. And, we anticipate closing probably just shy of $1 million, or hopefully a little bit more than that this year. So let me take you through the LEAC budget real quick, or the IDA budget. So we have proposed revenues and expenses. Professional fees were standard. We have one thing out of the ordinary. We have agreed to do an energy plan, which is about $120,000. And let's see, we've trimmed the administrative expenses. Travel expenses, we've also trimmed rent, economic development and marketing. That's down to the consulting agreement, the agreements that we have in place currently with the advertising agencies. It runs about $17,000 a month. And we were kind of running in line, if not a little bit less than the actual loss in 2019. The biggest expense is obviously the payroll and
And you've gone low on us. Just speak up, please.
Sure. So our biggest expense is the payroll and benefits, and our economic development marketing expense.
Well, this is helpful. I appreciate the notes in your schedules as well. There's nothing that stands out to me. I don't know, Amy, if you have any comments on first the agency, the IDA budget, and then how Ann started on the LEAC budget. But I didn't have any additional commentary or questions for Ann or Harry here.
No, thank you, Anne, for providing a thorough, detailed report. I also do not have any questions. Thank you.
It was a
Hearing
nice
that there-
learning experience for me. You know, being new, it's the best way to learn is to get into the budget. So any insight you guys can give me, I appreciate it. If I
Well,
missed it.
Is the only other comment, I'll go to where Amy was. We appreciate the notes, and I know you, Harry, and team spent a lot of time deconsolidating the budget for 2021, taking a hard look at it, given that we're still likely to be in a COVID environment as we turn the calendar from 2020 to 2021. And I for one, and I think I speak for Amy, appreciate the detail and appreciate you sharing this in advance of tonight's meeting. So thanks for that.
Thank you for looking at it.
Perfect.
Hearing that there are no further comments or questions, I'd ask that Chair Lewis Warren make a motion to approve the preliminary budget.
Yep. So let's make a motion from Finance Committee approving the preliminary 2021 budget that we just heard from Mr. Coughlin and Ms. Lamort. Make a motion. Amy?
I'll second the motion.
And if I could have a vote?
Lewis Warren, aye.
Amy Flores, aye.
And I'd like to note that the motion passed. Is there any additional business that either the chair or Member Flores would like to discuss during this committee?
Not at this time.
Okay, hearing that there's no additional business, I would ask that Chair Warren make a motion to close out the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion, Member Flores, to close out our Finance Committee meeting today, October 22nd.
I'll make a motion to close out the meeting.
Please go ahead.
And can we have a vote as well? Lewis Warren votes yes.
Amy Flores, yes.
I'd like to note that the meeting ended at 5:43, and we were going to go into governance, but since we already dealt with issues that involve LEAC, I suggest that we ad lib and candidly go into the Finance Committee meeting for LEAC. If I could ask Chair Warren to, for a roll call, you're present, and Member Flores, I see that you're present, and Member Williams is not here but is on the way. We had circulated minutes, which you had noted during the agency committee meeting for the LEAC Finance Committee meeting on May 28th. Is there any comment? Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes?
Not from Member Warren, and I think I can see Amy saying no as well.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Hearing that there are no comments or suggested changes, I'd ask that Chair Warren make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of May 28th, 2020 that was included in our package.
I'll second the motion.
And
Amy Flores.
if I could have a vote, please.
Yeah, so Member Warren votes yes.
Member Flores votes yes.
And I'd like to note that the motion carried. I, at this time, would like to note that a presentation on the draft preliminary budget for the for LEAC was made just a few moments ago. Are there any questions regarding the draft budget?
No questions at this time.
Hearing none, I would ask if Chair Lewis Warren would make a motion to approve the preliminary budget.
Make a motion for us to approve, as discussed a few moments ago, our preliminary draft budget for 2021 for the Nassau County Local Economic Assistance Corporation. Amy?
I'll second the motion. Member Flores.
And without objection, I'd like to note that the motion carried. And at this time, Chairman Warren, if I could ask for a motion, unless there are any other issues, that for a motion to close out this committee meeting.
Like to make a motion to close out our committee meeting. And did we vote, Tom? Did we vote on, I guess that was our vote, Amy and I. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to close our LEAC Finance Committee meeting tonight. Member Flores.
I'll second the motion.
Without objection, I'd like to note that the meeting has closed and the time is 5:46. At this time, I would ask that we open up our LEAC Governance Committee meeting, and that Chair Anthony Simon make a motion to, call the meeting to order. You're on mute, Chair Simon.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to call the governance meeting to order.
And for the record, I'd like to note that Chair Simon is here, that Member Kessel is here, that Member Flores is here, and that Member Fusco is excused. At this time, I'd like to note that that draft minutes of the LEAC Finance Committee meeting on February 27th was circulated to the committee. Are there any comments or suggested changes to the draft minutes?
I have none.
Hearing none, I'd ask that Chair Simon make a motion to approve the draft minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
And can I have a vote of the committee?
Aye.
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 I'd like to note that the motion carried unanimously. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Coughlin and to Andrew Komaromi, our counsel, to describe a proposed governance resolution.
So Tom, I just want to clarify, I believe we are in the LEAC.
I'm sorry,
Governance
you are
Committee
right.
meeting, which we need to
You are
close.
right. So that is for the next committee. So at this time, unless there are any additional issues, I would ask that Chair Simon make a motion to adjourn this committee meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the LEAC.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
And without objection, vote.
Aye.
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 Very
Aye.
good. I'd like to note that the motion carried and that the committee meeting is ended at 5:48. At this time, I'd ask that Chair Simon call the agency committee meeting to order, the governance committee meeting for the agency.
Okay, at this time, I'm calling the Governance Committee Agency meeting to order.
And I'd like to note that Chair Simon is present, that Member Kessel is present, and that Member Flores is present. Member Fusco was excused from the meeting. At this time, I would like to note that minutes from the agency's July 9th committee meeting has been circulated to the committee. Are there any questions or suggested changes to the minutes?
I have none.
Hearing none, I would request that Chair Simon make a motion to approve the minutes.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Amy, that's fine.
And can I have a vote on the minutes or on the motion?
Aye.
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 I'd like to note that the motion carried. And at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Harry Coughlin, to Mr. Coughlin, and to Andrew Komaromi to describe a proposed governance resolution.
Thank you. I will just give a quick overview on why this resolution is before you. Then I will ask Andrew Komaromi to just walk through some of the details of it. As you recall, in a recent, I believe it was June, agency board meeting, we approved a new housing policy, thereby allowing us the opportunity to open existing projects to provide enhanced benefits in exchange for increased affordability. During that approval, it was approved unanimously, but during that approval session, there was some discussion around the incorporation of fair housing language. So this policy has been amended. So we are seeking approval for an amended policy, which now incorporates fair housing and non-discrimination language. And I'm going to ask Andrew Kamarby to just provide an overview on the language that was incorporated.
Sure. So there's really, so as the CEO explained, that this policy in terms of its substance does not change except with respect to creating fair housing and non-discrimination requirements that some board members were interested to see in the policy. And we really have three changes in the policy. So the criteria pursuant to which this additional assistance is evaluated now includes fair housing and non-discrimination compliance. Secondly, it requires an applicant who puts in an application for enhanced benefits to provide certification of its continuing compliance with the agency's existing fair housing and non-discrimination requirements that are resident in the agency's application. And most existing housing projects were already under these requirements and were required to provide these certifications at the time of their application. Here, we are asking them to do a bring down certification. And thirdly, the last aspect of the changes is to the extent a project comes back in front of the agency to seek additional assistance, but the project predates the agency's inclusion of fair housing and non-discrimination compliance in the application, then now the policy requires this applicant to make those representations and to enter into those commitments that are in line with any other applicants that other applicants would have to do pursuant to the updated, more recent application of the agency. So again, it allows the board to test compliance. It requires certification with existing compliance. And lastly, to the extent an application that comes back predates those compliance requirements, now those requirements are freshly imposed.
Are there any comments or questions regarding the proposed policy?
Well, as Richie Kessel, I certainly support the policy. I know it was brought up by Tim Williams, but I do think it's an appropriate thing to do. In light of the Newsday series on housing discrimination and some of the hearings that have been held and the legislation that have been adopted by the state legislature. I think this puts us in line with making sure that developers who come in for housing assistance understand that the IDA will not tolerate any kind of discrimination whatsoever. So I fully support this. And I want to thank Harry, Andrew, I know Tom's been working on it, and the staff for putting this together.
Thank you. And I just want to conclude with the approach that we elected to take was just to maintain consistency across our application as well as this policy. Should any board member upon further review wish to discuss further or for any other further edits or inclusions, we're certainly happy to do that. But at least for the moment, we are consistent across all our documentation.
And I think, Mr. Coughlin, I think Chairman Kessel said it best. I appreciate the bring down language on behalf of Mr. Williams. I think it's important for us to have the best in belt and suspenders. And so I as a governance matter, I appreciate the consistency, us bringing down the policy. and recognizing that for the projects that the Nassau County IDA supports, we want firm adherence to these fair housing policies. Thank you.
Hearing no additional comments, I would ask that Chair Simon make a motion to approve the amended policy. You're muted, but for the record, I'd like to note that we could indicate you made that motion. Could I ask for a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And could I ask for, a motion has been made and seconded. Can I ask for a vote of the committee?
Aye.
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 And just to clarify, Tom, so this vote is to recommend this policy to the board for approval.
Yes. Yes, it's anticipated that there'll be a committee report during the board meeting and that they'll note that the policy was presented to them and recommend its approval by the board. And I'd like to note for the record of this committee that the motion has been approved. At this time, unless there's additional business that any member would like to raise, I'd ask that Chair Simon make a motion to close the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to close the governance out.
Could I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And could I have a vote of the committee on the
Anthony
motion?
Simon, aye.
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 I'd like to note for the record that the motion was approved unanimously and the time is now 5:56. Our meeting is, the committee meeting is closed.
Tom, I'd just like to call out that it appears Member Williams has joined us. If I could just confirm that you're with us, sir.
Yes, I'm here.
Good to see you this evening.
See you.
So just to catch you up, we have done the committee meetings of finance for both the LEAC as well as the IDA, and governance for both LEAC and the IDA. So your timing is perfect in that at this point in time, unless there is a need to move into executive session immediately at 6 o'clock, we can take up the audit committee meetings as well. Chairman
Excellent.
Kessel, is that acceptable to you?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Tom, I'll turn it back to you.
Very good. I would like to note that the time is 5:57. I'd ask that Chair Williams call the meeting, the LEAC Audit Committee meeting to order.
The call League Audit Committee to order. Roll call. John Kamanis,
Here.
Anthony Simon.
Yeah.
Chris Fusco.
Is absent, he's excused.
All right, great.
I would like to note at this time that minutes of the April 7th LEAC Audit Committee meeting has been circulated to the board. Are there any comments and or questions?
Nope.
Hearing none, Chair Williams, can I ask that you make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion. We approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Yes. I'd like to note that a preliminary budget was described previously during the Finance Committee meeting. Are there any questions at this time regarding the preliminary budget? Any comments that either CEO Coughlin or Ann Lamort would like to make?
I would just like to provide Member Williams the opportunity, if he would like a bit of an overview, as he was unable to attend the Finance Committee meeting. We're happy to do a brief overview for your purposes of the LEAC 2021 budget.
Harry, thank you. I did read the budget in detail. I don't have any direct concerns. I just maybe a general question for our CFO. Is there anything that you feel needs to be highlighted for attention, for direct attention? And is there anything that is out what you would call out of sync?
Member Williams, it's Lewis Warren. Before Ann answers, I just wanted for the record to let you know we did ask that question earlier.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I mean both questions. Anything you want to highlight on both leak and the agency and anything out of the ordinary. But I'll invite Ann to respond directly to you.
Not at this time, Member Williams. I don't have anything that jumps out. It's a little bit lower. We're actually showing a surplus instead of a deficit, which we showed we have for this year and 2019. And it's, in sync with the other budgets, just a little less.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was channeling Member Williams. It's Lewis. I was channeling you. So I did ask your questions
I appreciate that.
earlier.
That was great. All right. Tom, what's next?
If there's no further comments or questions regarding the preliminary budget, I'd ask Chair Williams if you would make a motion to approve the preliminary budget for the.
I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried.
And if is there any additional business that any member would like to raise during our committee meeting?
I don't think so.
Hearing none, I'd ask if Chair Williams, if you could make a motion to close out our leak audit committee meeting.
I make a motion. We adjourn.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.
I'd like to note the time is 6:01. At this time, I'd ask that Chair Williams call the agency audit committee meeting to order.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order of the Nassau County Industrial Agency Audit Committee.
I'd like to note for the record that we did a roll call just a moment ago, and that member or Chair Williams, Member Kamatis, and Member Simon are present. And at this time, I'd like to note that minutes of the agency's audit committee meeting on April 7th have been circulated to the committee. Are there any comments and or questions regarding the draft minutes?
No.
Hearing none, I'd ask that Chair Williams make a motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor of approving the minutes? I'm sorry, I make a motion we approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Okay.
I'd
Motion.
like to note the motion carried. We just a moment ago discussed the preliminary budget briefly regarding the agency, but at this time I'd like to turn the meeting over to CEO Coughlin and to CFO Ann Lamort to see if they have any additional comments regarding the agency's preliminary budget.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, the budget is due for posting to the Authority Budget's Office by November 1st, hence the timing of this review to this committee. As we did give an overview previous in the Finance Committee, Member Williams, I want to once again give you an opportunity to ask any questions direct to our CFO if you have any.
No, I appreciate that. I think we covered everything and I assume that everything is in sync. So I think we can move forward. Thanks for your efforts.
Then I'd ask that if Chair Williams would make a motion to approve the preliminary budget.
So I make a motion that we approve the preliminary budget for the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries.
And at this time, is there any additional issues that or business anyone would like to bring before the committee?
No.
Hearing none, I'd ask that Chair Williams make a motion to adjourn the committee meeting.
I make the motion we adjourn. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Adjourn.
the time is 6:04. I'd like to note that the audit committee meeting of the agency is adjourned.
Thank you, Tom. At this point, Chairman Kessel, we will move to open the board meeting of the IDA, the agency. We'll take a roll call, and then if you have the opportunity to go into executive session.
Yes, okay, thank you. I want to call this meeting of the Nassau County IDA Board to order. I'd like to just take attendance. Richard Kessel, I'm here. Lewis Warren,
Here.
Anthony Simon,
Here.
Tim Williams,
Here.
Amy Flores,
Here.
and John Kamadas.
Here.
Okay, and just to indicate for the record, Chris Fusco will not be attending the board meeting tonight. He's fine. We've been speaking all week, and we miss him. I told him I would certainly say on the record that we miss Chris and appreciate all of his input. What, just for the public's purpose, what we're going to do is the board is going to go into a brief executive session, and it's important that we're going to temporarily adjourn this IDA board meeting to go into that executive session to discuss the status of certain projects and personnel items. So I'll make that motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second, Tim Williams.
Who's that, Tim?
Yes,
Okay, thank you, Tim. Welcome aboard. Good to see you.
same here.
Is there a second for that motion to go into executive session? Who was that?
Anthony?
Okay, Anthony, second. We can take a verbal vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries, we're going to go into an executive session. Just for the public's point of view, I'm expecting this to last no more than 20 minutes to a half hour. And the purpose then would be to go back into the full board meeting and then go into our Local Economic Assistance Corporation for a very brief agenda, and then go into the IDA. You know, I'm not sure if anyone is watching us, but the items that have been talked about, you know, the Amazon project, Engle Berman and Bethpage will be dealt with at that time. And we will move this executive session along as long as we can. So members of the board, we're now going to adjourn into executive session. If you haven't already, please mute your mics and turn off the video. And you all have a number to call in for executive session. So please do that now. Thank you. And we'll be back soon.
Just wanted to
Okay. I see it says we're starting 6:45, but we're going to start now, correct?
That's correct. We're going to start 6:30 with leak as published, and then 6:45 or sooner for the IDA.
Correct. Okay, thanks. Just want to give everyone a minute to come back. Okay, Harry, are we good to start?
It appears so.
Okay, so I want to call the meeting of the Nassau County IDA back in session from our executive session, which lasted approximately 20 minutes or so. And I thank the public for cooperating with us on an executive session. I want to indicate just that the purpose of the executive session was primarily, as I indicated previously, to discuss the status of certain projects. And while I'll ask Harry or counsel to report, I think it's important to note that, you know, while we're all doing okay, that there are a number of companies, clients of the IDA, who are, you know, having some difficulty paying the pilot payments and other payments that might be due. And as we do routinely every year, we review them and we, you know, decide what actions to take. Well, I'll let Harry or our counsel explain what we're going to do. I think it's important to convey to the board and to the public on behalf of the board that we are very sensitive to the environment that we're in right now. Obviously, with COVID, we're all struggling in all different ways. And many of our great businesses in Nassau County, large and small, are challenged right now. And we have, over the last few months, been discussing internally, making sure that the businesses that we serve are given flexibility and compassion and some latitude on their payments. And I think that's so important right now. You know, again, I think these are highly unusual times. We're in a very challenging environment. You know, we are here, while the numbers on Long Island have come down and are very good, and I think the public and, you know, our political leaders, especially our county executives, Laura Curran and Steve Ballone, have done an outstanding job of getting people to comply. You know, there are some warning signals ahead. There are predictions that this may be a very challenging winter, starting after Thanksgiving through after Halloween through Thanksgiving and for a number of months. So I think the one thing I wanted to indicate publicly is that while we have to protect the financial integrity of the IDA and the county itself, I think we need to extend ourselves as much as we can to show a compassion and understanding about where businesses are right now, especially in this COVID environment. And with that, I hand it over to Harry or one of our counsel to just go a little bit further than that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is our procedure and our policy, when a company receives taxpayer benefits or incentives that this agency provides, they covenant to certain aspects such as job creation, investment levels, and the like. We've reviewed each project's commitment to those covenants, and as such, the Board of Directors has given the CEO and staff the latitude to deal directly with those companies to resolve those deficiencies, if any.
Okay, does any one on the board want to say anything before we go back into regular session? Okay, hearing none, I would call us back into regular session just to be appropriate. That was the report out of the executive session. No other actions were taken during the executive session. What I'm going to do now, I know this is a little confusing, but I think I have it down, is we are going to adjourn on a temporary basis the IDA meeting so that we can go into our local economic assistance corporation for a brief meeting. Then we will adjourn that and go back into the IDA. So I will move to adjourn the IDA meeting at this time. Is there a second?
Chairman Kessel, I'll second. Member Warren.
Thank you, Louis. A voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the IDA board meeting is adjourned. We're now going to go right into the local economic assistance corporation meeting of the board. And I'd like to take a roll call. Richard Kessel, I'm present. Amy Flores.
Amy Flores, present.
Louis Warren.
Louis Warren, present.
Anthony Simon.
Anthony Simon, present.
Tim Williams.
Tim Williams, present.
John Kamadas.
Present.
And again, Chris Fusco is not with us tonight. And with that, I want to, we now have a quorum for the Nassau County NCLEAC organization and our committee. So I want to go, I'm just trying to find the NCLEAC. I got it right here. First, we've got routine approval of the minutes from our September 17th Local Economic Assistance Corporation. First, do I hear a motion to adopt those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Anthony Simon, I'll second that motion. Are there any changes to those minutes or corrections that anyone has? Okay, hearing none, I think we could do a voice vote. All those in favor of adopting the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes carry. Now we've got committee reports from NCLEAC. I should just explain to the public who's watching that the NCLEAC is our sister agency, and it is not the actual IDA, but the IDA board and the NCLEAC board are one and the same. So if anyone's confused, I apologize for that. I just want to explain that NCLEAC deals with mostly nonprofits and other entities, and has a slightly different mission, but certainly united with our IDA. So we've got committee reports from the leak committees. Audit Committee, Tim Williams.
Yes, sorry, I'm here. Okay.
Okay, I see you.
I had on mute. Okay. So we're going to call our audit committee together, take a roll call. John Kamadas,
Here.
Anthony Simon,
Here.
and Chris Fusco is out. So we're going to, this is just to refer to the right full board, correct?
Correct.
It's that you
Okay.
to report to the board that you just had a committee meeting and the action that you took at the meeting.
So the board, the committee met today and reviewed the budget, and we're prepared to make a recommendation to the full board to accept the budget as presented.
Okay,
Good.
thank you, Tim. I guess we can do the three, Tom, right? Just the three reports.
Yeah, well, it's only Finance Committee that would be reporting at this meeting, and Director Warren could do a similar report to
Okay,
Director Williams.
so.
And do I have to call the Finance Committee of Leak together, Tom? Or can I just?
Sure, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
So let me call the Finance Committee of Leak together, Louis Warren, Amy Flores,
Amy Flores present.
and Tim Williams.
Present.
Excellent. So I'd like to report out to the full Leak board that the Finance Committee of Leak met earlier this afternoon. We recommend and concluded in our Finance Committee meeting to accept the board resolution approving the 2021 preliminary budget.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, and appreciate the Finance Committee doing that as well. What I'd like to do now is, Tom, should we do a Governance Committee report?
There's nothing for them to specifically report at this meeting. They will have a report for the agency meeting.
IDA, at the IDA. Okay, so thank you for those reports. So we have a resolution for LEAK to adopt a preliminary budget for 2021. First, do I hear a motion to adopt that preliminary budget?
Tim Williams.
Tim Williams says yes. Is there a second?
I'll second, Member Warren.
Okay, Louis Warren seconds it. Are there any comments about the that budget? Should be noted for the record that the budget was described by our CFO and our CEO during these committee meetings. So this is just after we've reviewed the budget and discussed it in those committee meetings. Are there any questions or further comments by any of the board members of LEAK? Hearing none, all those in favor, well, let me call the names just for the record. I think that's important. Tim Williams,
Yes, I vote yes.
John Kamadas,
Aye.
Anthony Simon,
Anthony Simon, yes.
Louis Warren,
Louis Warren, yes.
Amy Flores,
Amy Flores, yes.
Richard Kessel, I vote aye. The budget for 2021, the preliminary budget, is adopted. Now, we do have a resolution on procurement. Tom, do you want to explain that?
Sure. This is a resolution to approve additional funds that needed to be spent for the transportation and storage of PPE. A specific vendor was utilized for that. And again, this is a motion to approve additional expenses of not greater than $50,000 for the transport and storage of PPE in conjunction with the PPE program that was previously approved by the corporation for distribution to members or to distribution to residents of Nassau County.
Tom, this is a ratification. Did they previously come before us for approval?
It did not, as it turned out, because of circumstances, the agency unexpectedly needed to incur expenses on storage and transportation. So that's why it's brought to you non-pro con.
And so the amount we're approving is has already been paid to them, or is this for future?
Approximately $24,000 has been spent. Additional funds are, additional costs are expected. So this is asking for approval of up to $50,000 and engagement, official engagement of the vendor as might be necessary.
Okay.
And just to clarify, Member Williams, this is so we can satisfy the vendor because they have already provided the services or continue to provide. We are, however, seeking reimbursement of these funds through CARES Act funding through our various partners in this program, which is to be determined. However, at this point in time, we just need to satisfy the vendor while we work through that reimbursement scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, and Harry, I would just add that we are talking with the town of Hempstead about this matter. Want to publicly thank Supervisor Clavin and working with County Executive Curran and the IDA. We have given out thousands of these kits with a new program using the kits we have left, hopefully in the works in the next few weeks. But I've had several discussions with the supervisor, Don Clavin, and those will continue. Harry has communicated with the town as well, so that hopefully we can get reimbursed for these expenses. Okay.
And as the chairman explained, thousands of businesses received PPE kits, so it had a very positive and very significant impact on the county and on its business members.
Yeah, I have to just say, I mean, I've heard from so many businesses, the county executive, Don Clavin, supervisor of the town of Hempstead, all tell me that of all the programs out there, this venture is the most important to businesses because it's putting something right in their hands. They don't have to wait. They don't have to go out and do this or do that. I think I mentioned at our last meeting, we had a very successful distribution to mostly daycare and childcare entities at Baldwin Park. And it was unbelievable. I was there, county executive and Don Clavin, supervisor, were there, and the cars were lined through the entire park out onto Grand Avenue going north. It's an astounding thing. So, I know just about storage, but in order to be able to distribute this material, you have to be able to store it, obviously. But I just wanted to say again, and I've said it before, the great job that our staff, Harry and the whole crew did. I was there. I did lift a few boxes. I tried to do the lighter boxes, as Harry knows. It's a very labor-intensive job. And our staff were there for hours. The town of Hempstead and their people were there, and I thank them as well. It's a very labor-intensive process, but the end result of giving PPE to all thousands of businesses in our county and in our town of Hempstead is just a huge accomplishment. And I think I thank the board for being supportive of this from the very beginning. All right, we have to vote. So do we have a motion to adopt this procurement resolution?
I'll make a motion, Chairman Kessel. Member Warren.
All right, Louis, I'll second it. I'll take a quick vote here. Richard Kessel votes aye. Louis Warren?
Votes aye. Louis Warren votes aye.
Amy Flores?
Amy Flores votes aye.
Anthony Simon?
Anthony Simon, aye.
Tim Williams?
Yes.
John Kamadas?
Aye.
Okay, the resolution carries. I now ask for a CFO report from Ann Lamort. Following that, we will adjourn leak and go into the IDA meeting. Thank you. Ann?
You're on mute, Ann.
There we go. Catherine muted me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members. If I can refer you to the CFO folder, the CFO report is Nassau County Leak, CFO report September 2020. And if we could just go over the revenues real quick, we don't have any closings. We did receive an application for September from London Jewelers. Wait, what? No, was it London Jewelers? No, Portledge, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong company. Okay, it was Portledge. Little deficit, they set up the escrow account that we use for the town of Hempstead as an interest-bearing account. They took back the interest. That's why it's on minus $10. We go to the, let's see. We have the expenses of admin is D&O and the computers. We have servicing expenses. The IDA billed the LDC for closing fees for the 2 schools that we closed on this year, approximately 25% of the closing fees. And then in the marketing, the business development expenses was an expediter fee and a ZE fee of $2,500 for public service announcements. If I can direct you to the cash below, as you can see, we finished the escrow account, and that's our cash balance. We are anticipating 2 closings for the year, 90% on one of them. We heard today from our attorney, which would be about $180,000 if we close on 2. So that would bring us well above our budget, our anticipated budget number. So that's about it for LEAK. Is there any questions?
Okay.
I'm sorry, quick question. What was the expediter for?
So the expediter is just for what you approve for. So that's for storage and transportation of the PPE kits from the warehouse to the Baldwin Park.
Okay.
It's
Okay, I
not-
didn't know.
Yeah, it's not per se an expediter service. That just happens to be its name.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions for Ann from any members of the board? All right, seeing none, thank you, Ann. At this time, I think we have a motion to adjourn and go into our IDA board meeting. So do I hear a motion to adjourn the LEAK meeting?
Louis Warren makes a motion to adjourn, Chairman Kessel.
Okay, is there a second?
Anthony Simon seconds it.
Okay, thank you. I think we can do a voice vote. All those in favor of adjourning the LEAK meeting indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the LEAK meeting carries and is adjourned. We're now going to go into the board, IDA board roll call. First, and I don't know if we have this, but it doesn't really matter. We've been doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag tonight?
We do. One
Oh,
moment.
great. So I'd like to everyone to stand, and if we can do a Pledge of Allegiance led by our CEO, Harry Coughlin, that would be great.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, board members. Also, we have been doing a moment of silence for those individuals here in Nassau, on Long Island, in New York, and throughout the country, and obviously throughout the world, who have passed away due to COVID-19. And I would ask for that moment of silence now. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that very much. I will give a brief chair.
If I could recommend a motion to reconvene the IDA meeting. We'd had a motion to adjourn it, so I would recommend a motion to reconvene it and then continue with your report.
Okay.
Makes a motion.
Who's that, Anthony?
Yes.
All right, I'll second it, Anthony. Although we think we could do this by voice vote, all those in favor of recommencing the IDA board meeting, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That would be interesting. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. To go into the chair report, first of all, I just, I've indicated before, but I think it's important to note that, our staff is doing an extraordinary job, and I want to thank them very much. We're conducting a lot of business, and not just, some of the things that you see tonight, some of the projects we've done, like the Long Beach Super Block, and others, and we're taking up several major projects tonight, but also being out there and helping small business. And I think that's a critical a part of our agenda. I've said this before, but I want to thank our county executive, Laura Curran, and also Senator Todd Kaminsky, State Senator Todd Kaminsky, for working with the state to allow us to help small businesses going forward. And as we move forward and we get some closings done, we are going to be looking at ways that we can continue to help small businesses. As Harry knows, and others, we have a surplus of PPE kits now. We've probably given out between 2,000 and 3,000 of them. And we are working with the town of Hempstead on another joint program that hopefully by the next board meeting will begin. Very exciting. And my expectation is in the end, we won't have many kits left. And again, I just think it's important to emphasize that doing that is so important to these small businesses and could become more important if things worsen. We're hoping for the best. We pray for the best, but we have to be prepared. Second, I just want to indicate generically that Harry and I and our staff and council, and I want to mention Danielle too. I don't see her in my pictures here. She's probably hiding from me, but the entire staff is just so dedicated and extraordinary in the things that they do. Again, pulling off some of these events, not just, getting ready to do these projects where you really, for the most part, can't do meetings in person, and you've got to do them virtually. It's challenging, but we have figured out, and our staff has figured out how to accomplish that. And I couldn't be more thrilled with the performance of Harry, Danielle, and the whole staff. And Harry has worked out a schedule where our staff is kind of in one day, then they work from home the next day. And I'm in the office a couple of days a week, and I see physically, how dedicated the staff is They come in early, they stay late. We conduct hearings and meetings. So despite COVID, we are fully operational. And I think that's due to the dedication of our staff and also the input from board members who've been so helpful and cooperative. And I want to thank our board members. Each and every one of you, you all become friends and colleagues at the same time. I think we're dedicated to continuing to move forward, both in the area of projects and in the area of helping small businesses. And I think that's important. I also just want to indicate one other thing, and we discuss it constantly, and that is that some of the projects that we approve are a little slower than expected in getting closed. Again, it's mostly due to the environment that we're in with COVID. The banks are a little slower. They're overwhelmed. Sometimes, we approve something and the business will say, we're going to close next month, and they can't. And it's certainly not the fault of the businesses or our staff. It's the environment that we find ourselves in. And I said I happen to be a chairman of a nonprofit board, the EAC. And we're finding at the EAC that many of the government agencies out there are slow in paying contract expenditures. And a lot of the nonprofits, as well as municipalities, are going through very challenging times right now. And the IDA is part of that. I'm pleased to report that we're okay. We're hanging in there. I think Harry, and I want to also thank our counsel, Tom Gary, Tom Glasscock, and Andrew Kamarami. We had a meeting today. We go through every project that's pending to be closed. Where is it? When is it going to be closed? And we follow this very closely. But to be where we are in this challenging environment, I think is a great success story. And I'm expecting a number of closings before the end of the year, but also a number of closings in the first quarter of 2021. And I just think that we're going to continue to bird dog this and work hard at it. I think it's important. We're in constant communication with the developers and their attorneys. I speak to them all the time. And I think that is an important point. One final point, and I'll hand it over to Harry for his CEO's report. Actually, two quick points. One, I do want to indicate that our staff, and myself, and I particularly want to thank Catherine Fee, does a great job, by the way, of just putting these meetings together. This is very complicated. It's just not that simple. So I thank Catherine for that. But we have been working closely on the offshore wind projects with the county executive and her staff and her team. There were a number of awards that were granted about a year ago, and some of the offshore wind companies have submitted bids in the last few days, and several of them, for the first time, are looking to locate and connect into Nassau County. Obviously, not on land. The wind turbines would be well out into the ocean, but we have met with a number of bidders who have indicated to us that they are planning and now have submitted bids on these offshore wind projects. A number of them have proposed connecting here into Nassau County. And we have had extensive meetings with them, chaired by the county executive. And Harry and I and Catherine have participated in a number of them, where we discuss with them what's in it for Nassau County. What are the benefits that we're going to get? Jobs, physical presence in the county, et cetera. And we're continuing to work on that. I will have more to say on this probably at our November meeting. But I think it's important just to say that, I'm a big supporter of offshore wind. I actually proposed the first major offshore wind project when I was at LIPA many years ago. And I'm thrilled that we're finally moving in that direction. And it's exciting. It's clean and green with no emissions. But it's also an economic driver. It provides jobs, not just in the construction, but in the running and the operation and maintenance of these projects. And I think I speak for the county executive as well, that we want some of those economic development benefits and jobs to come here right into Nassau County. And we're working to see that happen. And I will tell you, without going into specifics, that a number of the companies that have submitted bids, especially in the second round from NYSERDA, have particularly talked with us, and in their bid have talked about what they are prepared to do to promote economic development in our county. I think it's, the only offshore wind projects, most of them are off of New England. There's only one off of Long Island, believe it or not, physically, but they're all, the power from these wind turbines are coming from these projects into the grid on Long Island and here into Nassau County. And the fact that these companies are now interested and initiating talks with us about economic development is very exciting. And I'll leave it at that and then now turn it over to Harry for his CEO report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of the staff, thank you for the recognition for their efforts. They are certainly well deserving of the accolades. And I thank them for their efforts as well. Members of the board, good evening. As always, you'll find an activity report in the Dropbox under IDA folder number 3. I'll be very brief in my remarks. Activity since September 17th, the date of the last board meeting, we executed one closing for Clifco. And we have a number of projects slated for closing in Q4. As the chairman said, we spent some time with council today going through the full pipeline and tracker. These 6 projects that are listed here are forecasted at a 90% or better probability of closing within the quarter. And the pipeline for the first quarter is as robust as it is for the fourth quarter. So I think it's important just to note that as we go into the later CFO report, when we're looking at closing fee income, current cash flow, we expect it to be replenished to a large degree when these projects come to close in the quarter. You've already heard about the Ppe Kit Distribution. We conducted one on September 25th, where we gave away an astounding 700 plus kits. And as the chairman said, the line stretched for miles out to Grand Avenue, out of Baldwin Park, which is a large park in and of itself. So it was quite the line. And again, I thank the town, our staff. I want to thank Member Flores for once again providing volunteers from the Office of Hispanic Affairs and our partners in the Office of Minority Affairs and Asian Affairs as well. True team effort once again, and I appreciate you providing some staff to assist us in that effort. It really is a great deal of help. We've had a number of meetings from a business development standpoint, which are listed here. The chairman's already covered the offshore wind proposers and suppliers. From a marketing and awareness perspective, if you've seen it, Newsday published an editorial on September 22nd, the downside of IDA deals. I want to call out and thank our partners in economic development, Kyle Strober at the ABLI and Mitch Pally at Libby, for their joint op-ed in response in support of not only IDAs, but economic development and the importance of it on Long Island in general. Newsday published that on October the 8th. And again, another great partner, my counterpart at the Suffolk IDA, Tony Catapano, he and I together, Newsday published our joint letter of response on October 14th. So really appreciate Newsday's allowing us to respond and clarify a number of points from their editorial. We had a press event on October the 6th for, again, our Economic Development Collective, which is all 8 IDAs partnering together. And the timing was right for this press event because Long Island was included in Site Selector magazine, which goes out to 48,000 C-level executives as well as site selectors and consultants who do location selection. And that Long Island Intelligence Report was included in their most recent publication. It really came out very well. Appreciate everybody's contribution to that. The press event was highly successful. I think the report, if you haven't seen it, was also very well done. And if you'd like, we can certainly make sure you receive a copy of it. So unless there are any other questions, we can move on to the public comment period. Mr. Chairman, before we do that, I do just want to read some notes for the public before they may comment.
Yes, of course.
So if you're participating via Zoom and you wish to make public comment, we ask that you use the raise hand icon. You will be placed into the queue and you will be able to speak at the point in time in which your name is called. This is a moderated meeting and you will hear us speaking directly with Catherine Fee, our moderator, who is our Chief Marketing Officer and Director of Business Development at the IDA. The hearing is being live streamed and recorded. We also have a stenographer present who will be transcribing these meetings so we can add the transcripts of these meetings to the public record. If you don't wish to make public comment today in this meeting, you are more than welcome to submit written comments. And you can send them to my attention, Harry Coghlan, Chief Executive Officer of the Industrial Development Agency at 1 West Street, 4th floor, Mineola, New York, 11501, or please send us comment via email to info@nassauida.org. Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you for the public comment period.
Thank you, Harry. Just to indicate to the public, this is a general public comment period. This is not a hearing per se, but we will give anyone that wants to say anything that's on their mind 3 minutes to speak. You will have an opportunity to ask a question or raise a hand before the several items that are coming up later on. So very much like a government entity like the county legislature or a town board meeting, this is kind of like just an open public session. So if anyone would like to speak, now is your opportunity on general matters relating to the IDA. So I'll ask Catherine at this point. Is there anyone that wishes to speak at this point of the hearing?
Yes, Chairman, we have Maddie Arasich. Maddie, are you with us?
I am.
Okay. Hi, Maddie.
Hello, Chairman Kessel, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to go ahead and give me a couple of minutes. I wanted to make a comment on the offshore wind piece. Sitting on the Climate Jobs New York and also councils with offshore wind on Long Island, this is one of the most interesting and exciting things that are going to happen for Long Island. But I want to let you know that it's aside from what's going on with these particular vendors, which is Vineyard Wind, Equinor, or whether it be Ørsted, there's also another component, which is the National Offshore Wind Training Institute, which is being formed in Long Island. It is supposed to be a national institute, which is to give the ability to train those people that would work offshore and work on a maintenance component on all of these offshore wind facilities. So these are the opportunities that we look to increase, such as diversity, to give opportunities to a middle-class income, and to make sure that those people who have the education can actually remain on Long Island instead of taking their skills and their education elsewhere. So that's one of the most important things. And I went ahead and I speak with this idea all the time to everyone, but just to hear it come on this IDA is something that is most important for everyone. The reason is because it really is happening, and it's happening right now. So thank you for mentioning this, and I'll be on the meeting later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your comment and your input. Anyone, Catherine, and anyone else that wish to speak on the general public comment period?
Mr. Chairman, we do have one other member of the public wishing to speak. I do want to just request, please, that when you do make comments, you state your name and spelling. as well as your location, your address to the extent that you want to give it. And also, please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Mr. Chairman, we have Mr. Kevin McKenna waiting to speak.
Okay. Mr. McKenna, you have 3 minutes. Nice to see you or hear you, but welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Kevin McKenna, Syosset, New York. Thank you guys for all you do. I'm a little confused why you're not allowing the public to attend this meeting in light of the fact that the public is allowed into town meetings, Hempstead, Town Oyster Bay. I'm just wondering why you're not allowing the public to have a real meeting. But more importantly, I was under the impression that tonight you were going to have Amazon on the agenda.
Well, that's correct, but not for a hearing or anything, just to make a preliminary presentation.
Okay, well, I just want to make a suggestion that you really should have the public comment after the presentation, because I don't know, we don't know what you're going to talk about. So the comments should come after the presentation, but be that as it may, I just want to provide you with information that you might not be aware of. Mr. Kessel, I read your advocacy in Newsday for the project in Syosset, and I'd like to hear back from you as to whether you have spoken to the community or the school district before you advocated for the project, number one. And what I want to tell everybody is that as far as I know right now, the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, they are still awaiting the remediation plan from the owners of the property and Amazon. And it's not as simple as it's being made to sound in the papers. The DEC has to accept a remediation plan, and the reason that the remediation plan is very, very important is because 2-3 months ago, the DEC came out with the report after they tested the soil last year, and they have found that there's cyanide, heavy metals, and many other contaminants that I can't even pronounce right now. And the CDC, and this was reported in Newsday by Ted Phillips after the DEC report came out, the CDC has stated that exposure to those chemicals can not only cause sickness, but can cause death. So the remediation plan is extremely important because if the land is disturbed, those contaminants that I just talked about will go airborne, and there are 2 elementary schools right near the property. So, and I guess my question is, why would you spend time taking an application on this when this is a major hurdle that needs to be gotten through? I would suggest that you hold off on starting an Amazon application at least until after the DEC accepts the remediation plan. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate your comments. Just a couple of points on what you raised initially, which, I hear you about doing an in-person meeting. We tried very hard to do this meeting in person. We actually did do one of our public hearings on the Long Beach Superblock in person down in the city of Long Beach. We actually had 2 hearings on that project. And I think all of us on the board and staff wanted to do this meeting in person. The problems were both capacity limits we typically do our meetings in the ceremonial chambers in the Theodore Roosevelt Executive Building in Mineola. And
Right.
the capacity in that room is somewhere around 20 people. And with the board and our staff and the clients that were coming before us and their attorneys, we just couldn't handle it. That we thought about, whether there was a waiting room and as we had at the Allegria, but there is none. And then we kind of said, well, can we do a meeting both in combination with Zoom? And it raises a lot of technological questions. So we made
the town of Hempstead does it quite efficiently.
Kevin, you've spoken, and I'm answering it, and we're going to move on. But we want to meet in person. All of our board members want to meet in person, and we're looking at some other alternatives. And I'm hopeful that we can meet in person in the next couple of months, either November or December. But I think it's important to indicate that public safety is very important. And the other thing is we wouldn't want to be in a position where, for instance, you couldn't come inside to the meeting and you couldn't stay outside because of capacity limits in the building. And so you would be left out and no one would want to see you left out. So I think, and you mentioned the town of Hempstead and Oyster Bay. I've been in those hearing rooms many times. They're much larger than what we have in the county. But we are looking at alternatives. And I'm hoping that either in November or December, we do plan to have meetings in both of those months that we can have an in-person meeting. So thank you very much.
Could you address my important topics?
Thank you. Your time is up. We need to move on.
Could you respond to my questions?
I will when I'm ready. We're not talking about Amazon now, but I am totally supportive of the project, although I do agree.
Don't you think the public comment should be after? Don't you think the public comment should be after your hearing?
No, I think that I guarantee you that we will not do anything that doesn't have the full consent and approval of the DEC in New York State. That I can absolutely assure you. Okay, is there anyone else, Harry or Catherine, that want to speak in this part of the program?
No, Chairman, not at this time.
Okay, so with that, we'll end the public comment period and go into new business. The first is an approval resolution for Engel Berman at Bethpage. I just want to indicate again for Kevin and some of the other members of the public that this project was already presented to the board previously. There was a complete and full presentation. As a result of that, there were ongoing negotiations between the developer and our staff. And so what tonight is, it's a final approval, which means there'll be a brief presentation of the project. We will then, if there's anyone that wants to comment further, they're welcome to do so. And then we will vote on whether or not to approve this project. But it's just important to point out for people that aren't familiar with the IDA that this is a project that we have been looking at for a significant amount of time. And when we initially moved forward on this project, there was a full presentation made. With that, I'd like to ask if representatives of Engel Berman at Bethpage are present and would like to make a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Peter Curry, Farrell Fritz, PC, 400 RXR Plaza, Uniondale, New York. I am here with Stephen Krieger and David Berman from the Engel Berman Group. As you know, you asked for a brief presentation. I will try to be brief, but as this board is aware, Engel Berman is one of the largest employers on Long Island. It employs approximately 2,500 personnel throughout its executive offices in its various communities through Nassau, Suffolk counties, New York City, and New Jersey, as well as Westchester County. And this agency has a long history with the Anglo-Berman Group. The second assisted living community that Anglo-Berman ever did in Westbury, this agency approved in 1999. Agency also approved a community in North Hills in 2002, Massapequa in 2004, Lake Success, which was a complete dementia unit building in 2015, the Magnificent Project in Jericho in 2017, and 2 projects in Uniondale in 2018. The current application is for a project located at 1055, 1065 Stewart Avenue in Bethpage. You can see the rendering in front of you. It is currently a parking lot. So it's 4 acres of asphalt with nothing else on it. And the intention is to place a building with approximately 133,000 square feet with approximately 150 units, of which 40 will be dedicated to seniors with a level of dementia. As this agency is aware from our prior applications and from everything else you read in the news, there's an increasing need to provide dementia units. In the original Anglo-Berman applications, we actually had smaller dementia areas, but now this need is there, and Anglo-Berman is there to respond to it. In fact, Anglo-Berman has partnered with North Shore LIJ in pioneering programs that are meant to study the condition of the various types of dementia and to try to respond to it and maybe provide a cure or at least a way to deal with the issue. This building is the subject of a recent Newsday article as a consequence of a recent public hearing I had in front of the town of Oyster Bay. That article, which we felt was a very well-written article, highlighted the various measures that Anglo-Berman is undertaking to combat the current pandemic. So this is a developer that is not only responding to the various needs, but it's a nimble organization that's able to change its programs in order to respond to changes such as the pandemic. And as a consequence of that, I mean, we feel that the future of senior housing will benefit those developers who can take this type of holistic approach to the physical and emotional needs of their residents and also the families and the people who visit them. In this particular building, 15% of the units are to be rented to those individuals who are earning 80% or less of the adjusted median income. This project, as you can see, will also feature dining, recreational, reading, movie, other amenity areas. It's a full service project. It is meant not only for the residents, it's meant to keep them active, youthful, and responsive. And it's also intended to keep residents on Long Island who otherwise might leave or go some other place. The idea is to keep them with their families and keep them in the area that they spend so much time in. The estimated acquisition and construction costs of this project exceed $50 million, and the company is the applicant is covenanting for 80 full-time equivalent employees. It is my understanding that the board has received a Commoine report. So in addition to all of the social, psychological, and physical needs that this facility will respond to, the economic impact of the construction and operation of this facility, of this community, are enormous. The construction employment, Commoine, we feel, conservatively calculates at 90 full-time employees plus 53 indirect construction employees or resulting from construction. And that would result in, during the construction period, $12.1 million of direct, indirect, and induced earnings. The overall construction impact in Nassau County alone will exceed $31 million. The operational employment, which is again direct and indirect jobs of 90 jobs with $2.5 million of annual earnings, and the annual impact, operational impact of the operation of this community will be approximately $10.7 million. The overall benefit to the taxing jurisdictions will be almost $10 million over the current taxes on this property during the pilot period. So I think credit needs to be given to Anglo-Berman for proceeding with this project during a pandemic. A lot of other developers have been scared away from initiating new projects. This is a developer that sees an opportunity. It is not about to let what it considers to be a short-term issue cause it to slow down. And I think it deserves the approval of this board. We are seeking an abatement of sales tax a partial abatement of mortgage tax on the project, and a 20-year pilot agreement. And I'd like to open up the floor for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Peter, and Steve, it's good to see you as well again. And I just wanted to ask a couple of questions and just make a comment, but could you tell me a little bit more about the COVID aspect and how that impacts this project? Not necessarily in the construction, but upon completion?
Sure. So let's first talk about COVID from an employee standpoint. From an employee standpoint, we're testing each and every one of our employees right now on a weekly basis. That means that every single employee that works for us comes into the building, gets tested, and gets their test results. Anybody found to have positive tests will be sent home, will not be allowed back into the building until they have 2 negative tests within 3 to 4 days of each other. That's the first thing that we're doing on the employee front. Everybody who walks into the building has their temperature taken. Everybody that walks into the building fills out a form that talks about where they've been for the last 14 days, who they've been in contact with for the last 14 days, how they're feeling for the last 14 days. We take their temperature and we have them sign an attestation as to the facts, as to what they've said. So everybody who walks into the building, we're having very limited contact with any outside vendors into the building. Outside vendors are dropping off all of their food, all of their deliveries outside of the building, and our employees are then moving all of that food and procuring all of that food and bringing it into the building. Supplies, the same thing. One of the things that we've done at Engle-Berman for all of our communities right now is we have PPE supplies in every one of our buildings right now for 4 months. Okay, it's something that we did. God forbid there's a second wave of this. We have PPE in every one of our buildings right now for 4 months. Something that I don't think anybody else on Long Island is doing right now. So from a standpoint of taking care of our employees, making sure that our residents are safe, those are some of the things that we're doing. I could talk about, if you'd like, what we've done in the buildings. We've added a third. We had ready to go. We had plans that were finished on this building. We changed everything around with COVID. We added a third elevator in order to be able to move our residents. It's a 3-story building. In order to move our residents freely in the elevator, giving them the opportunity to come down for meals, which is very important to them. We now have an elevator right now for which elevator capacity, which is second to none in this building. We've also built on every one of our floors now what we call a wellness area, so that all of our residents can be given their medication, because we have medication monitoring going on in the buildings, and we have a wellness person on each one of our floors right now checking our residents on a regular basis. We're doing a tremendous amount of monitoring of our residents on a regular basis, and we also are testing our residents on a regular basis. So we've really stepped it up. We have cleaning companies. Not only are we doing the protocol for cleaning, not only have we increased the filters and put in MERV filters in all of our buildings, we have ionization in all of our buildings. We have special ionization equipment on all of our HVAC units in the buildings right now. And we have an outside cleaning company. And in addition to our cleaning protocol, which has been stepped up with additional employees, we have an outside cleaning company coming into the building to make sure that all the touch points, every single touch point in our building is being taken care of on a regular basis. So I think in further response to that, not only will the new building have all of the new MERV requirements, but this is a company that's going back and going through its existing buildings, many of which have benefited from the Nassau County IDA, and upgrading them and bringing the latest technology to each of its communities. So and it will continue to respond. As we all know, this is an area that's changing rapidly over the course of time. This is an applicant that's, it's the gold standard. So they will be retrofitting all of their buildings to continue to meet upgraded standards as we go along.
One of the things that David Berman just mentioned to me was we've also redesigned our memory care wing so that we have memory care pods right now. So in case there is a resident in the dementia care wing, we can separate them and put them into a separate pod. And we've designed those pods so they can be a little bit more independent.
Well, I want to thank you for answering my questions, and I want to commend you. I know we've discussed this in the past, for the care and concern that you're showing to your current residents and some of the things that you've had to do, and also for taking on a project like this in this environment. I know that this is important housing needs on Long Island, and I think that this new facility will complement some of the other facilities here in Nassau County. And, I think it's important, not just now, but going down years from now, because we do see an increasing need for senior living, and also for people who are dementia or have other impairments. And so I commend you for all of that. Do any board members have any questions?
Maybe after the vote. After the vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make one comment for the board.
If you don't say something afterwards, yeah.
What was that?
I'd like to make one comment for the board's information. There was one important aspect of the negotiations with Engel Berman and staff that Mr. Curry neglected to mention, and I think it's important to note. It's the affordability component. I want to mention that, and I'll ask Mr. Curry to please just confirm my understanding is correct. There is a 16% affordability component, which will be 8 units each at the AMI levels of 80%, 70%, and 60%. Mr. Curry, do you concur?
That is accurate, yes.
I want to commend Engel Berman. It was a lengthy negotiation process. That is an improvement over their original application of 10% of units, all at 80% AMI. So they increased not only the level of affordability, the percentage of affordable units, but also deeper affordability. And I think that should be noted.
Thank you, Harry. It's a good point. And I think it's also important to note from your presentation, from Engel Berman presentation, that, there's a misnomer out there that IDA projects raise everyone else's taxes. And it's actually contrary to that. In fact, this project, as an example, it will pay more in payments in lieu of taxes than if the project weren't built on that particular property. Significant millions of dollars more. And that is true with almost every project we do. So I think that's an important point. Are there any questions or comments by any of the IDA board members?
Yeah, this is Tim Williams. So,
yes.
in the absence of Chris, but as always, a good question. Have you guys reached out to the Nassau County Building Trades? I know Maddie's kind of with us. We heard him speak before, but have you guys talked to them about your contract? And I do know that you guys have a good relationship with the labor groups.
Yes, yeah. So our construction team is constantly in contact with Maddie, and once again, our construction team will continue to be in contact with Maddie regarding this project.
Great.
I think we're probably different from a lot of your other applicants in that they're constantly doing projects and constantly interacting with organized labor.
Yeah, no, I know you guys have a good relationship with all members of the labor group.
And Member Williams, I just want to call your attention. You can't see it, but Mr. Arasich is still with us and he has raised his hand. So it might be an appropriate segue to allow Mr. Arasich a couple of moments.
So just before you do that, I just want to say, I think it's a good project. I'm happy that you're doing more properties like this. I do think you guys and this product type that you have as part of your portfolio is a incredible, just good thing for Nassau County and for Long Island. It says something about the way we care for our seniors. It says something about that so many people want to move into your facilities. And I do think they are noteworthy as landmarks on Long Island. for many decades. So I congratulate you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Tim, are there any other board members that wish to ask questions or make any comments before we go to the public?
Chairman Kessel, it's Lewis Warren. Just wanted to comment on a couple of thoughts here. First, I applaud Ingle Berman and our staff for their work here. I appreciate the increase in the units that are affordable. That 16% of the units will be affordable. That's important. I echo Member Williams's comment about our need for assisted living facilities on Long Island. I think is absolutely fantastic that more families can keep their loved ones close to them on Long Island. I applaud Ingle Berman for the great reputation that you rightly enjoy for building quality units and doing it in a first-class fashion. And just wanted to comment, I think the permanent jobs, the construction jobs are all consistent with our mandate, economic development, retention of jobs, and increase in jobs. And I guess the last comment I would say, I applaud you for being forward thinking through this pandemic, because we certainly, Chairman Kessel has led the way. We certainly want to lean into the opportunities for additional jobs and additional facilities, high quality facilities like this that offer families to be able to keep their loved ones close by. So I think for those reasons, it's absolutely, as Chairman Kessel started saying, it absolutely is first rate for Nassau County, Suffolk County, and for Long Island. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments by board members?
I have one if you don't mind.
Sure, John.
All right. I think it's a great project and you guys are doing great. And I'm just going to ask you once again that you guys are very good at negotiating and keeping peace and talking to people. In our town of Bethpage, if we're not one of the biggest or the biggest having seniors in our town, which puts a big, as you know, the Bethpage Fire Department, along with Plainview, Hicksville, and bordering towns, we have a critical situation during the daytime. And it's one of the biggest issues we have. I know you've reached out to Bethpage, and I hope you guys can make a deal, because the only issue I have is there's not enough workers during the day to take care of what's going on right now. And with your help and maybe you guys sitting down and getting a think tank together, it's something not only in Bethpage, but volunteer fire department during the day. These guys have to work nowadays. So there's fewer and fewer guys in towns, just like Long Beach, Bethpage, anywhere you go. I appreciate what you're doing. And I just ask that you reach out to Bethpage and the neighboring towns, because they have mutuals during the day. And sometimes it takes a little while to get somebody to answer a call. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. And just to indicate that through your input, I communicated that issue to Steve Krieger, and I know that they have been in touch with the Bethpage fire officials. And if there are other officials that on the fire end that you think they should be in touch with, please let us know and let them know. I appreciate Steve, you and your team reaching out to those fire departments.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? All right, hearing and seeing none. Catherine or Harry, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this?
Yes, we have Maddie Arasich. Maddie, are you with us?
I am.
Hi, Maddie.
Once again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity here. My name is Matthew Arasich, president of the Building Trades for Nassau and Suffolk counties. You know, earlier there was a comment which is that they are the gold standard for this assisted care or retirement communities. And I will tell you that they're selling themselves short. And the reason is definitely you have to upgrade yourselves to platinum. I'll tell you why. You see, when we're talking about situations at this point where you're looking at something, not today, but you're looking at something 18 months and 2 years from now, so that when the pandemic is done, these will be the facilities that are the pinnacle of performance for the elderly, for those who want assisted living, and for those who need this help. And I will tell you that the conversations I've had with Engle-Berman have been nothing short of spectacular. We're moving in the right direction. In fact, it's even beyond that. What happens is they're actually seeing the value that we bring to the table, where they can actually see the savings firsthand. One of the reasons is because they do the development themselves. They don't have to wait for contractors to go ahead and pass along the savings. They'll see these things. My comments with Scott Berman, in fact, I spoke with him today, are exactly the reason why we actually see this partnership working with Engle-Berman and the IDA. These are opportunities that everybody benefits from. But more than anything, it's something that if you're looking at a position where a group is actually trying to benefit the people who live on Long Island, we should give them as much help as they can. And let us do the things we do to help even more. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Arisich.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Catherine, anyone else?
No, Chairman, not at this time.
Okay. Just for the record, I failed to indicate that we did hold a public hearing about this several days ago. In anticipation of that hearing and this meeting, I personally reached out to County Legislator Laura Schaefer, who represents this district, as well as to the town of Oyster Bay, and let them know about the hearing. And the project is something we do traditionally. And I think it's also important to point out that this project, along with all of our projects, are on the agenda that is on the IDA website. So you can always check the IDA website close to our meetings and see exactly what's going to be discussed. Thank you. We have 3 resolutions to vote on. I assume, Tom or Andrew, sorry, I'm a little hoarse, that we can vote on them all at the same time.
Richard, that is correct. I just, before the board takes a vote, I would like to, as we always do, quickly summarize the benefits being voted on.
Yeah, just hold off a second. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a summary of the benefits. Then we'll take up the CEQA resolution, the pilot deviation resolution, and the final approving resolution in one vote, if that's okay. Andrew, you want to describe the benefits, and then we can do that.
Absolutely. So the benefits for consideration here consist of mortgage recording tax exemption benefits of $303,000, sales and use tax benefits of $2,190,000, and a pilot with a duration of 21 years that consists of a base pilot that starts with current taxes escalated at the 1.81% inflationary rate compounded throughout the term of the pilot, and an increment over the incremental increase in value of the improvements to the project that kick in year 7 of the pilot and are phased in over the next 15 years through year 21 on a straight line basis.
Andrew, you want to just explain what that means?
Sure. So the incremental value that is created by building the structure on the now vacant land creates basically an additional tax base that has an estimated tax value of what full value would be upon construction, and this full value taxed at current rates is basically phased in over a period of 15 years starting in year 7. So the straight line phasing in essence means that the initial payment on the increment in year 7 starts at 6% and then continues with 13, 19, 25, 31, and so on and so forth, all the way up to 94% in year 21 of the pilot.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Andrew from any board members on the explanation of the benefits? Okay, seeing none. So we're going to take up 3 resolutions on Engel Berman Bethpage: SECRA, pilot, deviation, and approving. Do I hear a motion to adopt those 3 resolutions?
Tim Williams?
Tim Williams moves it. Is there a second?
Anthony Simon seconds it.
Anthony Simon seconds it. I'll take a regular vote here. Richard Kessel, I vote aye. Tim Williams?
Aye.
Anthony Simon?
Aye.
Amy Flores?
Aye.
Louis Warren?
Louis Warren votes aye.
John Kamadas?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The resolutions carry. I appreciate it very much. Next, we've got 2 preliminary resolutions.
Yeah. So on behalf of Mr. Chairman.
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the applicant, I'd like to thank the board for its consideration of this application.
Yes, and on behalf of Engel Berman, I'm here with David Berman, my partner. I know that Jan Berman's on listening, Scott Berman and John Weiss. On behalf of all of us, we appreciate the confidence this board has in us. And once again, we will build another Engel Berman Bristol development here. I also want to just say that we also appreciate the confidence that M&T Bank has in us. M&T Bank has been our partner in a lot of these deals and has supported us, and they've told us again they're going to support us on this development. So we just want to thank them also. So thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate it. We are next. We have 2 preliminary resolutions. Again, this is not a hearing on these projects. It's just a preliminary presentation. Let me explain the first one, Caselta Crevette. They were before us previously for a preliminary presentation. One circumstance has changed in terms of the building that they are acquiring. So I think they can be brief. It really is more like a change of address on a project that was already presented to us. So I'd ask the applicants if they would just briefly refresh the board on what you're doing. We did take this up at the last meeting, and the plan is just to give us the new address and what you're doing, and then we will have a hearing going forward in November, and we will take this up again for final approval at a future meeting, hopefully in November. So with that, I'll hand it over to my friends over at Crevette, and we can go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Eric Rubenstein. Can anybody hear me and see me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm an attorney with Ruskin Moscow Faltercheck, along with my colleague John Chalemi. We're presenting this application for Caselta /Kravit Inc. And the chairman is correct. We were with you not too long ago on a very similar application for the acquisition of 220 and 420 Crossways Park Drive in Woodbury. And during the due diligence of that contract, we were presented unexpectedly with an opportunity to acquire 250 Crossways Park Drive in Woodbury, which is a better property for our headquarters, which Carrie Kravit, the president of Kravit, can explain. And I think I will, after Carrie makes his presentation or reminds the board of how great Kravit is, I can explain what benefits we're seeking today.
Okay, Carrie, just briefly, because we already got this presentation, where you're moving to and what you're doing. Thanks.
It's very simple. We're really moving a few buildings down from what we had proposed. we needed to acquire about 60,000 square feet of space, and we had it in 2 different buildings. This is an opportunity to be all together, all of our functions together in one building. It's much more efficient for us. It's just a much easier transition. It doesn't present any of the problems of operating out of multiple locations, albeit those locations were close together. We're here presenting on September 17th, and I can go through what I presented then, but I don't know whether you want me to do that.
I don't think you need to, unless the board wants it. The presentation was already made to us. Any members of the board want a repeat presentation?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you just give us the details about what you're seeking?
Yes. John, do you want to do that? Or Eric? No? Do you guys want to do that, or you want me to? It's really the sales tax exemptions, as you see there, the mortgage tax exemption, and the pilot. The pilot, I think it would be a stable tax for 3 years, then no more than a 1.8% increase thereafter for the next 17 years.
That's correct. Sorry, I was on mute.
And I assume I'm correct in pointing out that, as I did earlier, that this is just really a change of address. You're going into a building that better suits your business. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it's about 10 buildings closer to where we started on Long Island 63 years ago. So it's a much better, it's a better location for us in a better building, and it's one building. Other than that, it really is just a change of address.
Okay. Do any board members have any questions on this project? Again, just for the public's sake, this was already considered in substance, absent the change of address at our last meeting. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adopt a preliminary inducement for this particular? Oh, I should have, sorry, I apologize. Is anyone from the public wish to be heard?
No, Chairman, not at this time.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to grant a preliminary inducement to move forward with consideration of this project at this time?
Chairman Kessel, Member Warren will make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Anthony
For
Simon.
Flores?
Oops, sorry, Amy.
Sorry.
Okay, Amy seconds it. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate, well, let me do this by voice just to be sure. Richard Kessel, I vote aye. Anthony Simon?
Aye.
Amy Flores?
Aye.
Louis Warren?
Louis Warren votes aye.
Tim Williams?
Aye.
And John Kamadas?
Aye.
Okay, the preliminary resolution carries. I thank you. We have one, yes.
I was saying thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was disconnected for a bit. It's Eric Rubenstein. So I apologize for that.
Okay, well, we're finished. So thank you, and we appreciate that. I want to now move on to Amazon and the Syosset Park Development, LLC. And before I say anything, let me call upon the litigants, Amazon and/or their representatives, to make a presentation. Again, as I indicated before, this is a preliminary presentation only. It is not a public hearing. And the process is, if the IDA votes to move forward, there will be a public hearing and a further consideration in the future about this. And it will have to come back to the board for another hearing and a final approval later on. With that, I'll ask Amazon and/or their representatives if they'd like to make a presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Kessel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan,
Yes, Chairman Kessel, members of the board, thank you very much. My name is Dan Deegan with the law firm Porcelli Deegan Trana, the attorney for the applicants. We also have with us today Brad Griggs, who's the Senior Manager of Economic Development for Amazon. Brad, you there?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and IDA board.
hi, Brad.
Okay, so this project is a very exciting project. We have co-applicants here. One is Amazon.com Services LLC, which would be the proposed tenant for the project. And then the co-applicant is Syosset Park Development LLC, which is the owner of the land. Amazon, which is obviously a well-known company, the applicant is a subsidiary of Amazon.com Inc., which is the multinational technology company with a focus on e-commerce. The applicant operates a North American fulfillment network that is comprised of multiple facilities that are responsible for fulfilling customer orders. The co-applicant, Syosset Park Development, is a joint venture between Simon Property Group and Castagna Realty. The property at issue here is a very well-known piece of property as well as the applicants here. It's a 39-acre site, which is located at 305 Robbins Lane, which is the northeast corner of Robbins Lane and Miller Place, Syosset, New York, the former Cerro Wire project, which has received tremendous press over the decades. The project that we're proposing would be the construction of a 204,000 square foot, one-story distribution facility, which represents an investment of potentially $71 million in Nassau County. The site's been vacant since Cerro Wire ceased operations there in the mid-1980s. The site's had a legacy, a well-known legacy of visual blight, environmental issues, it's a brownfield, low real estate taxes, no jobs, and past failed development proposals, which have been the barrels of ink have been written about it in the past, what a failure this property has been in the past efforts. With that background, I want to turn it over to Brad to describe what the proposal is for this project and the benefits that we see this project bringing to Nassau County. So Brad.
Thanks, Dan. So as you can see here, what we're discussing as part of the proposed project is a last mile delivery station as part of our overall North American fulfillment network. The proposed site would facilitate the last stop before our packages would hit the doorsteps of businesses and our customers around Nassau County and the greater Long Island area. We're looking at investing potentially over $70 million to develop the site alongside of our partners there. And we would, part of that last mile distribution and delivery station would be the installation of interior conveyance systems, IT equipment, office furniture, as well as the construction of the site itself. What I'd like to do for the board and for the Chairman Kessel is to talk through a day in the life of a delivery station here. What you have before you is the proposed site plan for the development there at the old Cerro Wire site. On the left-hand side in red is the proposed loading dock area where the 18-wheeler tractor trailers would come onto the site. Those trucks would come in during predominantly the overnight period. We anticipate about 90% of the trucks coming in between roughly 8 to 10 p.m. in the evening until 6 a.m. in the morning. Those trucks would be bringing Amazon packages prepackaged, ready for delivery. In yellow on the right-hand side of the site, we have our Amazon associate parking. That area is where our full-time, part-time, and seasonal workforce would be arriving onto the site, also predominantly during the overnight period. They would come into the site, they would unload the tractor trailers using the conveyance system. They would stage the packages using baker's racks and large-scale duffel bags that are rollable along the site for the two staging areas, as you can see, along both sides of the building. We would, beginning at about 9:45 in the morning, the van drivers, which are third-party independent contractors, would come on site. These are our delivery service partners. They're logistics companies, entrepreneurs, small businesses in the area that we contract with to handle our delivery capacity that would operate out of this site alongside of the Amazon associates. That is the upper left-hand corner of the site, the yellow parking area there. The delivery van drivers park their personal vehicles. They are then walk into the blue area where the vans are staged the evening before. They get into the vans, they drive into the green loading zone. And then over the course of about 20 to 30 minutes, each driver would load alongside one associate their delivery van for their delivery route for that day. A little after 10 a.m., the second wave of drivers would drive onto the site. They would park, they would get into vans and drive into the two purple areas, one at the top of the site plan there and one along the left-hand side. They park their vehicles and wait for staging to then drive into the green loading zones. At a little after 10 a.m., we would anticipate the vans heading out of the site and beginning their 10-hour delivery route from this location, at which point the vans would cycle through the location. We anticipate roughly 4 to 6 waves of vans every 20 to 30 minutes, concluding the day's van capacity at roughly 12 or 1 p.m. heading out of the site, at which point the site would go quiet until the afternoon. The remaining 10% of the trucks would come in during the daytime. That facilitates prime same-day service, so packages that would be able to be delivered the same day that they're ordered. And we utilize our Amazon Flex program to facilitate those orders. Those are personal vehicle drivers, similar to Uber or Lyft, but for packages instead of for personal transportation. They sign up via the Amazon Flex app. They are registered drivers with proof of insurance, and they take an online safety training course to become Amazon Flex registered drivers. They drive on site, work alongside an Amazon associate to pack their vehicle, and then they deliver packages via their personal vehicle to help us with our capacity needs at the location. On average, those Amazon Flex drivers tend to earn roughly between $22 and $25 an hour to complete an Amazon Flex delivery route. The Amazon full-time associates working in the site will all make at least $15 an hour with comprehensive benefits starting day one. We would anticipate about 150 of the full-time positions, 25 being the hourly or 125 being hourly and 25 being management. The 25 management positions would all be at least $60,000 with the same comprehensive benefits as the hourly workforce that are full-time. Again, comprehensive medical, dental, 401k, life, disability insurance. If you could head back to the site plan one slide before. At which point the flex drivers, they head out of the site from the green zone. At which point, at the end of the day, the van drivers, again, the third-party independent contractors, which are indirect employment opportunities generated by our delivery station sites, would return to the site at roughly 7 p.m. in their same waves. They would go through a safety check and then park their van, get in their personal vehicle, and exit the site. And we would anticipate that concluding at roughly 10 p.m. each evening, and then the cycle would repeat itself each day. So the workforce component, as I mentioned, we have full-time, part-time, and seasonal workforce. As part of this project, we'd be looking to create at least 150 full-time jobs, as we showed on the next slide, where it's a 25 management positions making at least $60,000 a year with comprehensive benefits day one, as well as 125 hourly positions, again, comprehensive benefits at least $15 an hour per position. So with that, additionally, as a result of this project, we would, our development partners anticipate creating at least 200 to 250 construction jobs should the project be able to move forward.
Thank you, Brad. So this is Dan. Let me take back over. So, the reason we're before the IDA is that, it's pretty well documented that the high costs, that the construction costs a lot of money on Long Island and in general. This site in particular has some challenges that result in very high construction costs. There's a necessity for environmental remediation steps that was alluded to earlier. There's the volatility of Nassau County property taxes, which is pretty well publicized. What we're looking for is stability and predictability going forward and a phase-in of a new tax base to be created by constructing this building. Without the financial assistance requested, we'd have difficulty justifying the proposed level of investment required for this historically challenged site. There are alternatives to doing this project, whether utilizing other current or future last mile delivery stations already in place, or third-party companies such as the Postal Service, UPS. Those are other options that could be brought to play here, but this is an opportunity to make Amazon's business more efficient, to create a new employment base. The employees that we're talking about with the IDA are the on-site jobs. Those other independent contractors are all in addition to that and separate, not part of this project per se, but certainly an ancillary multiplier effect that will take place. This is the preferred option, and with the IDA's help, we can make it possible. What we're looking for is a sales tax exemption on the construction materials and the furniture, fixture, and equipment to build out the facility. Mortgage recording tax exemption on the necessary construction and permanent financing. And we're looking for a 15-year pilot agreement. And we can talk about what that would look like, but the concept is generally to create the new tax base and phase in that new tax base over that period of time. It should be noted, the construction jobs obviously are a very important economic immediate benefit that would be created by this project should it go forward. We've reached out to the Nassau Suffolk Building Trades and Matt Arisich, and we have a continuing dialogue, which will continue to make sure that the opportunities are given for people to be, union trades to be competitive on the project, and hopefully to include as many as possible. We've reached out to the Syosset School District and have a meeting being set up now to meet with the superintendent to bring them up to speed on the project. The project is currently going through the land use approval process with the town of Oyster Bay. That's been reported in the paper. The reason we're at the IDA now is kind of, to us, it's important to come to the IDA early in the process before all the approvals are in place and everything else has been determined, because we need to know that we have a partner in the Nassau County IDA in trying to make this property economically feasible and this project economically feasible. It was referenced earlier, the DEC, that's an ongoing process. Obviously, nothing's going to be built here unless the town of Oyster Bay signs off on it, the DEC signs off on it, and everything is safe. So with that being said, I'd open it up to questions from the board and or the chairman.
Thank you, Dan and Brad. We appreciate this. A couple of questions from me and just a couple of points. On the environmental issue was mentioned before by Mr. McKenna. It's my understanding that nothing can be built on the Cerro Wire site without DEC formally giving it the green light. And from what I understand, and I have had some conversations with Brad Griggs, and Brad, I appreciate that. I think it's important to note that before Amazon or most entities come to us, we have preliminary talks with them on these projects and ask a lot of questions. But I assume that you guys are heavily engaged with the DEC, and that at some point the DEC will give us the green light and the fact that it passes all of the various environmental issues from that site.
Yep, that's correct. And they're working on ultimately the end result would be a remedial action plan, which would dictate what needs to be done at the site in order to be protective of the public at large, the local community, and certainly the people that are going to work on the site. So that's first and foremost, that has to be done before anything can be built here.
Good. And that's going to be very important. I know I've talked to a couple of our board members, especially John Kamatis, about the DEC role there, and that's a very important milestone as far as we're concerned. Second of all, I appreciate, Brad, you reaching out to the building trades. I have heard from a number of building trades representatives and from my good friend, in addition to Matt Arisich, from John Durso from the Long Island Federation of Labor. And they've indicated to me that you guys have been reaching out to them. We had a very good discussion, I think it was last Friday evening, about the involvement of the unions, especially in these times. We want to see as many Long Island union workers working on constructing this project, assuming that we go forward and vote to go forward with it, and it gets its final approvals. And I want to emphasize that is very important to us. And I do appreciate the fact that you've already begun those discussions with the trades. That's a very important point. A third thing is on taxes. And Dan, you alluded to this before. It's my understanding, based on the information that I've seen, that there are significant revenue benefits from this project to the town and to the school district, and as well as to the county, based on the fact that this land has been vacant for decades. Do you just want to briefly address that?
Well, yeah. So, because of the fact that it's been vacant, because of the fact that it has environmental issues, the value of the property, undeveloped and in its current condition, has been reduced over the years to the point where it's relatively low, given the size of the property. And this is an opportunity to add value to that property by creating a new building, which obviously is going to have a big tax rateable attached to it. And no matter how you slice it, that's going to be a positive. What we're looking for from the IDA is to take that big new tax rateable and phase it in on a smooth basis, so that it's predictable for us and it makes the project financially feasible. But there's no doubt it's all going to be very cash flow positive to the affected taxing jurisdictions, even with an IDA pilot in place.
Okay, thank you. Now, just a couple of points from my perspective. Obviously there's still some work to be done here, but this is a site that has been vacant and very controversial for decades. So I think almost 35 years. It reminds me a little bit of the Super Block and the challenges over there. And I think to make use of this site in a good, positive way, have the environmental issues and challenges eliminated and cleaned up, and the revenue that this will generate and the jobs that this will generate, particularly now when so many people are out of work, makes this a very attractive project. And I certainly support moving forward with the preliminary approval. Obviously, we have a number of discussions to have in terms of the negotiations. I wanted to indicate also that, obviously there are some community concerns out there. That site is like a magnet and it does attract concerns, but they're legitimate concerns. And I appreciate, Brad, your willingness and commitment to me in the discussion we had to be able to reach out to people who have concerns so that we can alleviate them and answer all of their questions, one-on-one or one-on-three, however it ultimately works. And I look forward to talking with you next week about how we might accomplish that as well. I also understand that the Suffolk IDA today gave preliminary approval to a facility, a similar type facility out in Suffolk at Gabreski Airport. By the way, if people don't know who Gabreski, people say, what's Gabreski? He was a former president of the Long Island Railroad. I knew him. I used to battle with him all the time when I urged commuters to strike. That's a whole nother story. That was in the early 80s. But Mr. Gabreski was quite an individual. So you're talking in one day about having two significant job-creating, revenue-creating facilities for Long Island, one in each county. And I think that's extraordinary. We need jobs. And again, there are a lot of issues. We need to address all those issues. But this is a significant job creator and exciting. I think in terms of some of the experiences you had to our west, I think you'll find that on Long Island, We want Amazon, and we want you to thrive and survive and grow jobs out here as well. So I'm very excited about this, and I look forward to working with you. And again, I appreciate your willingness to sit down with the community and the building trades and the school district and elected officials so that we have all of their questions answered. Very exciting. Now, do any board members have any questions or comments of either Dan or Brad?
Chairman Kessel, Anthony Simon, I have a couple of comments to make and then a question.
Sure.
Obviously, this is a big project, long overdue for jobs at a time now when jobs are so needed. It also helps, in my opinion, it being so close to the railroad station, as you mentioned, the railroad. And the ridership down right now is at 28%, which is absolutely terrible. So in the bigger picture of ridership and getting people to work, being close to the station and jobs, I commend you for that. I asked, Dan, you know the questions, you've been talking to Maddie. Your relationship with Maddie from the building trades obviously has grown tremendously. And we've made some missteps along the way, only from miscommunication, not out of wanting to do that. I'd ask that, I don't know, Brad, if you specifically spoke to Maddie, because I was speaking to Maddie, and I think he spoke mainly to you, Dan. I would ask you to commit Brad to have a conversation or a cup of coffee with Maddie and discuss it personally one-on-one with him, so that you can see that Maddie's all about jobs, all about making this work as well for the county, for yourself and your business venture as well. So if you could do that and give a commitment to us that you would speak to the building trades president, that would be helpful. This would leave like the middleman out and then just go right to the source, and then you and Maddie can build that relationship. And he's been very, very helpful in all these projects moving forward. So I ask you if you could do that.
Yeah, well, Anthony, let me just point out. So, I've spoken to Matt, but the real conversations have been going on between Skinnell Properties, who is the developer of the property. So there's the owner of the property, and then there's the tenant, which Amazon is, and then the company that's been hired to actually build the building is Skinnell Properties, and that's the entity, and the individuals there have been interfacing with Matt Arisich, and that probably is the best place for them to be interfacing, because they're going to be controlling the contracts, et cetera.
I'll touch base with Maddie. I was just in a conversation with him, and I think he's on, but his willingness to speak to anybody that could be helpful for the building trades, Brad, is only not putting you in a position here just to, relationships build. So just to try to do that, I'd ask you to do that.
Thank you, Anthony. Any other board members that have questions or comments?
Yes, Tim Williams. Dan, is there a timeline for, and I know it's going to be a general timeline because I know there are tons of steps that still need to take place, but if you had to ballpark it, what would you think it'd be for in terms of getting approvals, going through the process, waiting for whatever appropriate environmental and other area? I assume you're going to do traffic studies and all that good stuff. How long do you think all this is going to take?
Well, let's start out with the fact that we are trying to start. If we could put a shovel in the ground tomorrow, we would. We have to address these issues. We've been going through the process with the town. If everything goes smoothly and everything comes together, we can address all the concerns. We're hoping to, get started in the first quarter of next year.
Okay. So, and I know a lot of people, I think Richie said it, everybody said it. A lot of folks are going to have a lot of issues, right? This is a noted property, a lot of background, a lot of history. Everybody can read about it. And I think it's great to have somebody coming in willing to take on the burdens of all that goes with touching a blighted or kind of a environmentally sensitive property. So can you tell us what you guys are going to do for community outreach? Just conversations. You said you're talking to the school district and probably some of the other ones, but just tell everybody what you're going to do to engage the community, give them an opportunity to be heard, and then not just be heard, but you guys address their concerns so they can feel like they become a partner in the process.
Right. So there's kind of two different things going on here. One is this IDA application, and certainly, one of the reasons we reached out to the school district and have a meeting that's being scheduled right now is to discuss the IDEA implications, but also, and hopefully the positive economic impacts of this project. But the school district also has two schools in the vicinity of the property, so they have some concerns related to that as well. The other track besides the IDA is the town process. And certainly the town has asked us to, as has Chairman Kessel, and would be our plan anyway, to reach out to the various local stakeholders. And I think, one of the things, certainly the town supervisor has suggested some people to meet with. I think Chairman Kessel has suggested some people, and I think we're gonna have a meeting next week with Chairman Kessel to get his guidance on who he sees as some of the stakeholders there. But I think a lot of the local groups have been very active in, giving their opinions, rightly so, and concerns about this, past development proposals. And, we see ourselves reaching out to those same groups that have identified themselves as concerned with the future of this property.
Can I suggest that, my opinion, one, I support what you guys are doing. I support the project. Obviously subject to learning everything about it. But can I suggest that I think one of the biggest mistakes people in Queens and throughout the state made the last time Amazon looked at this was they got a lot of bad information. They were just, it became a talking head conversation. Everybody became famous Facebook, just experts. And most of the information that was provided was cryptic, incorrect, and it resulted in the region losing an incredible partner and an incredible opportunity for jobs and as a job, engine. I think it would be really helpful if you guys would put together your own, outside of our process, outside of the town's process, just engage the community in a public fashion and talk directly to them outside of the constraints of let's call it the political arena. Because I also can say a lot of what comes to a lot of those meetings is more about local politics than it is about learning about the actual project itself. And it's about issues that people have with other issues, and the project gets lost in those issues. I think this is important enough, and that people give them an opportunity to just talk to you. Not something obviously that's mandated. It's just my recommendation, but I think it'd be a good community reach out perspective and engage everybody at that level, and try to silence. You're not going to do it all, but get away from the Facebook post that just is bad misinformation that is the true version of fake news, and really allow people to get real, honest input from the source, correct information. You're not going to make everybody happy, but at least I don't want anybody to say they're not been given an opportunity to be heard.
Yep, I think that's a very good idea.
Very good idea, and we'd be glad to work with you to assist in that. I think the more questions that are answered and the more outreach you do, the better we'll all be. Thank you, Tim. Very thoughtful idea. Any other board members wish to ask questions or make any comments?
Chairman Kessel, it's Lewis Warren. An observation, given the history of this zero wire site, given the back and forth, I think I don't have, Dan will have the information at hand, but within the last 10 years, this site was designated. There were some developers who wanted to do a big retail mall type of development, which was not viewed favorably from retail. There's a lot of retail on Long Island. So I just wanted to comment that given Mr. Williams, Anthony Simon's comments, the chairman's comments, I think there's a real positive opportunity to reframe the debate, one of economic development on a site that is literally, empty today. It needs the, environmental remediation. So I just think it feels to me, as someone who doesn't live far from this site, I think there's a real recognition, an open-minded recognition that for economic development, for jobs, for the remediation, the site is tailor-made for the use that Amazon in Syosset Park is focused on. I mean, it's right beside the highway. The jobs, the specific jobs of the project, the development, and then those ancillary jobs. So I really think that the community is open-minded, and this is an opportunity to sort of to relaunch the process, which is why I echo the chairman's, Mr. Simon and Mr. Williams's comments as well. In terms of how you go about it, really engage the public here. And I know the town of Oyster Bay will do that. Syosset School, Syosset will do that, and we can be helpful as well. So whatever we can do, I think the chairman is committed for us to be as helpful as possible in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Anyone else on the board?
I might as well finish, right? If you don't mind. Mr. Deegan, I appreciate you guys coming, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm on the other side of the fence right now, but I'm open-minded. I think everything that's discussed here has to be discussed. We have to take our time. I get the problem with the soil. As a water commissioner in one of the biggest plumes in the United States, I get that part of it. And that part is a great part to get that fixed. However, as a small business guy, I tend to think, and look, I'm going to be open-minded. I would like to go with the chairman to all the meetings and everything else to try and change my vote. By us opening Amazon's, we gave a tax break. I live in Nassau County. I live in the town of Oyster Bay. We already gave Amazon a tax break. Do they need it? Maybe to fix the soil remediation. I get it. However, I want to see what we can do. I don't think there's enough people working per square foot, making enough money at this space. I think it's competition. Every time you open a mile store, like one of these Amazon stores, they're taking a bigger piece of the pie where the small business guy cannot get to like a Prime, has to pay for a delivery, has to wait 2 or 3 days for a delivery. So nobody on this board, we're not rubber stamps, and we never will be. I would like to sit down and talk to everybody. I would like to just go through the process. I want to see what goes on at meetings. And I just want to say my opinion that way. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
I also just wanted to mention a couple of comments. Hearing everyone speak of, this project and looking at the importance of job creation and economic development, which is what we're here for, but also looking at the factors of the environmental aspect as well, which we know is very important, not only for us, but for the community at large. I wanted to just also emphasize not only the jobs, the importance of the jobs, but when you're looking at Amazon, you're looking at a whole spectrum of what their system entails, right? You're looking at a fulfillment center, you're looking at deliveries, you're looking at the packaging, everything that goes into just Amazon and the whole warehouse. You're looking at so many opportunities for jobs. And we know that right now, this is something that is truly needed for, the community, especially during these unprecedented times. But I do want to also stress the importance of having those conversations with the building trades. We know that there's not only construction opportunity, but also looking at things such as the conveyor system, the packaging. What else can we look at that can create more opportunities for the people here in Nassau County, the local families, the people that are looking to just survive. We are in unprecedented times right now. So I just want to just re-emphasize the importance of going back to what our goal is, which is creating economic development, job retention, and helping grow here in Nassau County. So with everything that everyone else has said, I just want to just re-emphasize, just taking it back, not only what our goals are, but also looking at the bigger picture of what Amazon is and also what we are here locally in Nassau County. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I think we've hit every board member. So I appreciate all the questions and comments from the board. Just to indicate, there are a couple of people who want to speak. We'll call on you. There's a 3-minute time limit, and we're going to stick to that. And if you've already spoken about this, if we have time, we'll call on you as well. I'd like to first call my good friend, legislator Arnie Drucker. Arnie, are you there?
I am here, and I want to thank you, Chairman Kessel, very much for this opportunity. I want to thank all of the board members and your staff for having this meeting. It's very, very important. I do also want to start out by stating that I commend the IDA for, doing such a great job promoting economic development in Nassau County, especially during these difficult times that we are experiencing. And I personally, fully and passionately support economic development here in Nassau County. But economic development always, as and I'm sure you all are mindful of, must be sensible development, must be considerate of the quality of life of the residents. And with that being said, I do have a lot of concerns about this particular project. I've grown up in this area. This particular site has been a blight and a vacant area for generations. I can recall riding my bike there with my friends as a kid. So that's how long it's been that way. And the community there is a very, very strong community that is very, very deliberate in expressing their opinions about development there. And as I'm sure you're all aware, there have been a number of projects over the years that have been thwarted. Litigation has been ensued. It lasted many, many years. There was a most recent project by Syosset Park for a multi-use project there that had a lot of positive benefits in that the entire community would be able to enjoy it. And it had a mixed use type of development project, which was, I thought it was worthwhile to pursue. But that, because of the opposition by the community, that was also scuttled. So this particular project, and I know the IDA is not here to listen to and consider all of the merits of this particular project. You're considering the financial component, and all of the members that have spoken, except for Mr. Kumatos, who I'm glad to hear that there's somebody who I am like-minded with here. But be that as it may, you're considering the financial component of this. First thing I'd like to address is with Mr. Williams. The Amazon project in Long Island City and other Amazon projects are not proposed on highly toxic sites, Superfund sites, brownfields that have been a problem for decades. The DEC took 3 years to finish their research there and their testing, and they finally came out with results that disclose that there are high contamination there, levels of contaminants that are possibly toxic, but they're not at a point where it infiltrates the drinking water, so that's not a concern for this type of project. But nonetheless, any development of this project is going to result in disturbing the ground there. And nobody knows, the developer doesn't know yet what that entails in terms of these contaminants becoming airborne. There are 2 elementary schools right in the vicinity. There are many, many houses right in the vicinity. And this has to be considered. This is not just an economic boon for the town, but there's a word in Yiddish. I don't know how many of you know Yiddish. There's a word called chutzpah. Chutzpah, when you have a company like Amazon, who, by the way, year to date, I believe Amazon has made a revenue $164 billion year to date, up 33.5% from a year ago. Their net income of $7.78 billion is an increase of 25% from the same period a year ago. Amazon is the #1 company in the country right now. They need a tax break? What is going to be the cost margin here, their profit margin, if they don't have the tax break? I'd like to hear the numbers on that. Is it going to be so cost prohibitive that they can't do the project? In addition, They have 3 other locations in Nassau County, I believe, or 2 at least in Nassau, Carl Place and Bethpage. Neither of those last mile distribution centers have they asked for a pilot. Why here? Is it only because of the remediation factor? Well, if it's only because of the remediation factor, it's not enough. Amazon can afford it. And, you're talking about labor. I read the application. There's no commit. Yes, they're engaging with labor, organized labor, but there's no commitment that they're going to the permanent jobs there, that 150 permanent jobs. I don't believe those permanent jobs are going to be labor, organized labor. And, why are we getting so excited about $15 an hour jobs? Minimum wage jobs. That's the best Amazon can do here. And you have a management positions, 25 management positions at $60,000. Why are we getting so excited about a manager making $60,000 a year? Amazon can't do better? There's a lot that they can do better. But most importantly here is, as a legislator, I look at these projects with a much greater lens than the IDA does. The IDA is looking through this as a lens with a financial component. I have to look at it through a lens of what the community needs, what they want. By the way, I have spoken to the Syosset School Board. They are against this project. They have written a letter to the town of Oyster Bay expressing their dissatisfaction and opposition to this project. The community is against this project. Why? You have 32 18-wheelers barreling down Robbins Lane in the middle of the night when you have houses right over there. That's something that
I have to ask you to wrap up for time.
I will wrap up, no problem. I'm just saying that you have 18-wheelers that are going to be barreling down the road there. That is an invasion, and that's intrusive on the quality of life there. So we need to be concerned about that. And I hope the IDA, I understand what tonight's preliminary inducement involves, but I really hope the IDA really pumps the brakes a little bit on this project. Thank you very much.
Richie, can I just, only because he mentioned that, I just want to say, legislator, I understand your concerns, and my comments weren't intended to suggest that anybody's entitled to tax breaks for one reason or another. I think that properties that are environmentally blighted warrant an additional focus on. I can't imagine that any plan that would be put forth or approved by the DEC or anybody would not include a remediation plan that requires a specific plan about how the remediation is done. In all of the large projects I've done all over the country, I've yet to see a approved DEC or Environmental Protection Agency plan that doesn't specifically list what they're required to do during the remediation. And I would expect that the applicant and the owners or whoever would be needs to take those to the appropriate parties and have them review it in the appropriate way. So I think they've got a lot of homework to do, and I'm glad you guys do look at it from a large perspective. And I think there are a lot of other groups and agencies that are going to be looking at this and weighing in, and they should take all those things into consideration that you raised.
Thank you. I agree.
Thanks, Tim. Arnie, just 2 points quick, because we're coming to an end to the meeting. And I am going to ask Brad Griggs and the Amazon team to sit with you. When I say sit with, I don't know how you define that these days, whether it's in person, by phone, or by Zoom. I'll let you guys work that out. I think you're an important person to be heard, and I want to get all of your questions answered. I also want to indicate, from my perspective alone, I don't think the IDA's consideration is limited just to financial issues. I think we go way beyond that. And maybe some IDAs, do it like that. We don't. And I'm not speaking for anyone else, but I speak to our board members all the time. We look at, the whole picture, and not just the financial issues. And certainly issues that you've raised, like the environment, are things that we're going to look at, because ultimately it's our job to help stabilize the tax base, which right now is obviously in deep trouble. So I want to assure you of that. And I will, if you're interested, I'm sure you will be, arrange that meeting, and I'd be glad to be there if you'd like. And again, I don't know what that means physically, but we'll figure it out.
I am grateful for that opportunity, Chairman. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Arnie. It's good to hear from you.
Likewise, same here.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Catherine or Harry? I don't know who I asked, but.
Yes, Chairman. We have Mr. Kevin McKenna again.
All right, Mr. McKenna, we're going to let you speak for 2 minutes. You've already spoken on this issue, but you're welcome to speak for an additional 2 minutes if that's what you'd like. I don't know if you're here, if you heard me. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thanks.
If I would have known that I was able to speak after this presentation, I wouldn't have been so persistent earlier. That's what I was asking you. Anyway, I want to thank Tim and Legislator Drucker, and I'm sure Legislator Drucker will attest to what I'm going to say now. I have spent the last 2.5 years helping to educate Legislator Drucker's office, and he's been very, very helpful in getting to understand the environmental issues on the site. Now, I want to let you know that I am the original, and I'm speaking right now directly to Mr. Deegan and Brad from Amazon. My main concern, I helped to form the opposition to Syosset Park LLC. And my main concern was the environmental issues. The communities, they have their opinions about development or no development. But I'm going to tell you right now that you have a community right now that's main concern is the environmental issues. And I want you to know I am in regular contact with the DEC. And what was not said a little while ago is that once the DEC receives Syosset Park and Amazon's remediation plan, once they receive it, and if they approve it, the DEC is going to have, they're telling me, the DEC is telling me that they are going to have the public hearing with the community. And I want to make this offer to everybody listening right now. I have a Facebook page with 12,000, I have 12,000 followers that if you want a message to go out to the community, I have the access to 12,000 people in the community, and I offer you my access to them. And I strongly suggest that you do not depend upon the town of Oyster Bay to reach the community. That is the problem Syosset Park had. Town of Oyster Bay, I could help you reach the community. I'll give you access to the community, but do yourselves a favor. Do not depend upon the town of Oyster Bay. The problem that the Syosset Park deal got shot down is because Supervisor Saladino made a promise to the community to perform independent testing, and he actually used that as a way to delay the project. He used that independent testing. He had no intentions on doing it. So I am willing to help you as long as you guys are straight and you talk to the community, and I'll give you access through the community, and I'll work with Legislator Drucker on making that happen. And I agree with everything that Legislator Drucker said, except for one thing. The toxins have contaminated the aquifer. The toxins have gone down into the aquifer, and that's why the Jericho Water District is having to borrow millions and millions of dollars to set up a water treatment plant over in Jericho. Legislator Drucker has my contact information, and I'd be more than willing to help you in any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna, and we will take you up on some of that. And I will ask Amazon and their reps to reach out to you directly to have a discussion. I thank you for your participation. Catherine, we're trying to end the meeting in about 10 minutes. So is there anyone else that wants to say a quick word? Because we still have 3 consent items that we need to go through.
No, Chairman, there's nobody in the queue at this time.
Okay. So what we have here is a preliminary inducement resolution. Do I hear a motion to adopt the preliminary inducement?
Tim Williams.
Tim Williams. I will second it. I'll do a voice vote. I apologize. Richard Kessel. I vote aye. Tim Williams.
Aye.
Amy Flores.
Aye.
Anthony Simon.
Aye.
John Kamadas.
I'm going to vote aye.
I think that's it. Right, Louis Warren. Sorry, Louis, you disappeared from my screen. You there?
I am here. I vote aye, Chairman Kessel.
Okay, so the resolution passes, and Amazon, Dan and Brad, let's catch up early next week and start working on a plan. I like Tim Williams' idea. Let's try to figure out how we can do some kind of an information session. I think that's a great idea. And Legislator Drucker and Kevin McKenna, we will be in touch. Or the applicant will be in touch, certainly. Thank you. We've got 3 consents. Let me move through them quickly. I'll have Andrew go through them quickly. They're pretty simple. First, an amendment for Lunar Module Park LLC.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment relates to the 2 resolutions approved for the Lunar Movie Studios at the last board meeting. And these relate to additional financial assistance for both the Port Washington and the Bethpage facilities. With respect to Port Washington, it is $99,750,000 worth of sales tax benefits. And with respect to the Bethpage project, it is an additional of $97,500 of mortgage recording tax benefits. Basically, the project costs were larger than initially understood by the applicant. The applicant amended the application. The cost-benefit analysis has been accordingly amended. The pilots are not affected, and because on each application the additional assistance is under $100,000, no public hearing was necessary to be held.
Are there any questions on behalf of the board? For Lunar Module Park, I guess we should take them separately, right, Andrew?
Yes, that would be. I mean, you can take the 2. These are 2 separate amendment resolutions. You can take them together because they relate to 2 projects, but they are integrated.
They're integrated. All right, so why don't we try both amendments for Lunar Module and 101 Channel Drive. First, are there any questions from board members on what we're seeking in these consents? Hearing none. Do I hear a motion to adopt the 2 amendments for Lunar Module and 101 Channel Drive?
Anthony Simon makes a motion.
Okay, Anthony, I'll second it. All those in favor, I think we can do these by voice vote. Indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, the motions, plural, carry. And this one is consent for steel. If Andrew, you'd want to explain that?
Sure. So this is a consent resolution that relates to a prior transaction of the agency Steel 02 LLC from 2011. Here, the applicant is seeking to obtain a bank credit line in the amount of $59 million. And the security in this transaction that is being proposed is a pledge of the membership interests of the entity to the bank by the members. This, under the IDA documents, would create, if it happened without the agency's consent, that is not to be unreasonably withheld, would be default. So the applicant came to the agency to ask for this permission. It is important to note that in their application for this waiver, the applicant recognizes that in the event there was a foreclosure of this pledged membership interest, that would or could result in another default under our documents, because then the lending entity could basically come into ownership and control of the entity that is contracting with the IDA. And there is, at this time at least, no waiver is being sought for that eventuality. It is recognized that to the extent that happened, the IDA's documents would control, and that would be a default.
Anthony, I'm sorry, not Anthony.
Andrew,
sorry, Andrew, sorry. Is the bank acknowledging that in the event that, and I don't expect this would ever happen with steel, but in the event of such a default, in the event that they execute the stock powers, that they are then subject to all the terms and conditions of our agreement?
Well, at that point, they wouldn't be subject, because that would become an immediate default under our documents. So if that happened, we would call it default under transaction, because our documents prohibit a change of controlling ownership. So they have two levels of prohibitions. They prohibit the pledge. Pledging in and of itself would be a default. Right now we're waiving that, but if there was a foreclosure on the pledge, in essence taking the equity interest, at that point there would be a new default under the IDA documents, and we would terminate and foreclose or negotiate with the bank to see if the bank wants to continue providing the jobs and potentially being availed the benefits.
Okay. A bunch of technical questions, but not worth talking about now, I guess.
Any other questions from board members? Just to indicate for the record that this consent was, there were some other issues kind of unrelated to this, but related to the company at another project. And Anthony, Chris, and I were very engaged in it. Involved some union issues, and I'm glad that those issues were resolved. Do I hear a motion to adopt the consent for steel?
I'll make a motion, Rich. Anthony Simon.
All right, Anthony, is there a second?
I'll second it. Amy Flores?
Amy Flores, thank you, Amy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have a few more items. We have approval of our minutes from our September 17th meeting. First of all, do I hear a motion to adopt those minutes?
Tim Williams.
Tim Williams moves it. I'll second it. Are there any corrections, changes, or additions to those minutes? Okay, hearing none. I think we can do voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we've got the committee reports at this point. We can move through these quickly. Tim, on audit committee?
So the audit committee met today. We need to do a quick roll call. John Kamadas.
Here.
Anthony Simon.
Here.
Okay, the audit committee met today and is making a full recommendation to the board to approve the proposed 2021 budget.
Okay, thank you. How about finance committee? Louis?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'd like to report that well, first let me take a roll call. Member Flores and Member Williams.
Present.
Present.
Excellent. We would like to report out that we met earlier today and that we recommend that the board approve the preliminary budget as presented by our CEO and CFO, which we approved in committee for 2021.
Thank you, Louis. And Anthony, governance?
I'll take a roll call for the governance committee. Anthony Simon. Rich Kessel.
Here.
Amy Flores.
Here.
And Chris Fusco is not with us this evening. Governance had a resolution to adopt and amend a restated policy to provide for a strategic additional and enhanced financial assistance for qualifying residential rental housing projects of the agency that commit to increased additional or improved affordability.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Now, just to come out of the committee meetings or the committee reports, we've got two resolutions. One is to adopt upon recommendations of the Finance and Audit Committee, a preliminary budget for 2021. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, Chairman Kessel. Louis Warren.
Okay, Louis, is there a second?
Anthony Simon.
Okay, Anthony, there's a second. Are there any further comments about the preliminary budget for 2021 that any board member has? Hearing none, I will have a roll call vote. Tim Williams.
Aye.
Anthony Simon.
Aye.
Amy Flores.
Aye.
Louis Warren.
Aye.
John Kamadas.
He's on mute.
John, you're on mute.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. And on the governance resolution, to adopt an amended policy providing for strategic enhanced financial assistance that commit to increase additional or improved affordability, as we discussed. First, do I hear a motion to adopt?
Anthony Simon.
Okay, Anthony Simon, is there a second?
Amy Flores.
Amy Flores, are there any comments from any of the board members? Seeing none, we'll do a vote again, voice vote. Richard Kessel, I vote aye. Amy Flores,
Amy Flores, I vote aye.
Anthony Simon,
Aye.
Tim Williams,
Aye.
Louis Warren,
Aye.
John Kamadas.
He's on mute.
John, you're on mute.
Sorry. Aye.
I'm wondering what's going on in the background over there. I think I know. I think I know. Thank you. The resolution passes. Ann, can you just give a very brief financial report? And then we can adjourn, announce the next meeting and adjourn.
Ian, you're on mute.
Ann?
Got it? Okay, my report is in the CFO folder. Nassau County IDA CFO report for September 2020. Does any of the members have any questions?
And just important to point out that this was discussed at a public meeting, committee meetings earlier this evening.
Yes, the budget was discussed in the CFO report. I just in an effort to save time, I thought I would just ask if there was any questions. Happy to go through it.
Are there any questions from any board members? Okay, hearing none, before we adjourn, I do want to indicate that our next meeting is currently scheduled for November 19th, Thursday night back to the normal time of 6:30. And we appreciate that. As I said earlier to Mr. McKenna, we will once again attempt to see if we can do it in person. Danielle, Harry, and I have talked about maybe figuring out ways to do that. But in any event, we want everyone to stay safe and healthy. And with that, I will make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Tim Williams.
Tim Williams seconds it. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, be safe, everyone. I look forward to talking with all of you as we go forward. Good night. Good night.